At
some point, Destin and I hope, will actually have a conversation about it.
We won't. The bridge is about to burn.
And the other reason I believe that is because of studies like this.
Careful. Ooh, he's super right up to this point, but I think he's making a statistical error here. By the way, not only is Dr. K over-credentialed versus what I'm gonna say, he also has real-world application practice as well. If our messages are ever in direct conflict, and I was a listener, I'd probably lean towards Dr. K unless Steven makes a really compelling argument. Just as a heads up, okay? If we end up conflicting anything. But I would say that somebody got my friend to fall for the open a business in another state and don't pay taxes meme.
You mean an LLC or?
Yes. Every single LLC should always be set up in a state with better tax treatment. That's what you're saying. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome. What an amazing loophole. Hedonism in and of itself, I don't think is necessarily a good thing, but I think everybody should be hedonistic. But I think that hedonism needs to be paired with fulfillment. If you can hit like this middle circle, it's like you're like in the dream zone, but this is incredibly difficult. Has that person committed an error?
That's a super tough question.
Go f yourself and read Wikipedia, you dumb.
I think it means life's not worth living is a...
Wait.
The conclusion people arrive at.
Dr. K is watching us right now. I mean, he's watching my video responding to him.
Oh.
Something is in your brain then, because there's not.
Oh
There's
no!
just not,
I wasn't ready for this to be reviewed.
A healthy brain acclimates to an unbelievable amount of stuff. Like even, I've said this before on stream, I think it says yesterday, even people who are like handicapped, like you can lose both your legs, you can become quadriplegic, you can have shut in or locked in syndrome, and even these people's happiness will acclimate surprisingly quickly.
Oh
so
God, he's gonna destroy me.
Rational analysis of your life and like, wow, I need to kill myself. Something is
not working there.
Something is not.
Okay. So I'm sure at some point, Destin and I hope, will actually have a conversation about it.
We won't. The bridge is about to burn. Where's Mr. Girl? Bring him in.
Is this fun? And reacting back and forth is... So, look, so I respect Destiny a lot. I think he's not wrong here, and I disagree. So let's understand a couple of things, right? So let's turn to the data. So this is where, like, I'm not... And there's data to the opposite of what I'm saying. So we're going to talk about the flaws in the data. So the first idea is that, okay, like, people can have a life that's crappy, but if you're suicidal, there's one exception, which is, like, debilitating illness.
Yep.
And Destiny's also correct that there are a lot of studies that show that human beings acclimatize to, like, lower standards. That's true. Like, if you lose a limb...
I'm so curious. Who does Dr. K overlap with that hates me so much? Is it just like Twitch culture in general? Because all of my conversations...
It's going to be Twitch in general, because you're banned from Twitch, so hating you...
No. I mean, like, hates me. Like, I don't...
hate you.
No. Dr. K doesn't, but all of my convos with Dr. K have been really good. My audience really likes him, but Dr. K's audience hates me.
Oh, well, that's easy, because everyone who likes Dr. K is like a feel-good, everything's going to be okay, let's get better together, and you're like, the world f***ing sucks.
I'm not like that at all. You're taking you're really weird. I am like one of the only optimistic people like on the fucking internet. Edmund, thanks for $100.
Okay, all right, good. Well, if you say it, it's true, okay? The reason why is that's a big f***ing Hugbox server where everyone loves each other and they want to get better, and here at DGG, we tell each other to kill ourselves.
I think it's just, I think there's got to be overlap with like Ludwig or Hassan or something, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's the more likely explanation.
Yeah, when you see something like Destiny opinion detected, Destiny's not someone anyone should take seriously. Why do people watch this clown? These are not people who are like, this guy's too negative. These are people that are coming from other communities or have an opinion of me from somewhere else. Because if you've watched any of my combos with Dr. K, they're all like pretty positive. None of these are like, oh, I think the world is horrible, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, what do you mean? I don't think anybody in his community would organically have that opinion. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Do you think there's a lot of overlap of people that watch you and Dr. K? Let me put it that
No,
way.
but I think Dr. K might have a lot of
that?
overlap with a lot of the other popular Twitch streamers, because I think part of the way that he grew initially was interviewing people like Pokemon and Hassan and the OTK people.
Hold on. Let's put some pieces together. So you think there's not a lot of overlap of people who watch Dr. K, so his viewers, his, what would you call them, HGGers? His people, no overlap with yours at all. Why?
The content style is just way different. Or I'm sorry, the subject matter and the style are way different.
I mean, subject matter doesn't matter. I mean,
subject matter.
Here watch different
what do you mean the
games.
subject matter doesn't matter?
I'm telling you.
How much overlap did the guy with makeup channels as a category on YouTube, Dan?
None, because you have no women that watch you.
Correct, because they're all with your mom, waiting to fuck me with your mom in a giant orgy in our Torah parties, where we circumcise babies and we come in your family over and over again, Dan, while they teach me about interest rates. Let's talk about something interesting.
Okay, yeah. So
how can I minimize my tax footprint? We need to start talking about this. What do you do for your
Oh, yeah,
taxes?
you want to move off this subject real quick. Okay.
No, because I don't think you realize the overlap. Dr. K had a ton of overlap with the OTK and the SON communities early on. There are certain types of comments when I see them, I know it's because they're coming from other places. The idea that he has a community of people, like, for instance, if I show up in certain people and I start talking to them, they've never heard of me before, there are people saying things, ooh, this guy sounds like really mean, or why is this guy like such an asshole or whatever. Like, those are comments that I would expect from like a feel-good community and they see me and I'm a bracer, blah, blah, blah. Things like, oh, this guy's a clown, don't take him seriously on anything, that's political in nature. That's going to be from other places. But I'm just curious where the majority of its overlap was. If it's with people like Ludwig or like Hassan or like a Twitch general like political area that I'm not familiar with. But it's not going to be like, oh no, they saw you and you're too negative. Like, that's not the case. That's not, yeah. Love you. Okay, hold on.
And you ask someone, would you rather lose both your hands or die? People will say, I would rather die than lose both of my hands. But then if someone has an accident where they lose both of their hands, heaven forbid, then what you discover is they're like, are you glad you're alive today? They're like, yeah, I discovered that I can still have fun. I think there are a couple of huge...
Wait, was that really a comment in that chat? Wait, hold on. Oh, yeah, he can't even point the countries he talks about in a map. But according to Dan, they think that because I'm so angry as a person. I'm just kidding.
Disconnections here with some of the things that Destiny's saying. Based on my understanding as a clinician, I don't blame the guy because, he's not a doctor, which doesn't mean that he can't have valid viewpoints. He's actually exceptional at assimilating information without a professional background. I think something I respect about him a lot. He's right about some of this stuff, and also let's look at some more data. I think he's wrong about some of it too, but okay. So this is a study called Suicide in the Absence of Mental Disorder, a review of psychological autopsy studies.
Have you considered that most people who follow a psychiatrist gamer health channel might just be mentally ill, and those people tend to have more extreme views? You know what? Ironically enough, I bet that the people that tend to follow this stuff are probably the people that are the most mentally healthy, because they probably are more likely to try to take care of that. You know who's probably the most likely to be unhealthy are people that follow like politics channels or like red pill shit. I bet these people skew. I'm gonna use the restroom real quick, okay? 1 second.
Oh, great.
Shut up. Stop being so negative, Dan.
All right, guys. What can I say in a very short period of time to get Destiny's channel, YouTube, Kick all banned at once? Think. Collectively, we can do this, and then we can ascend to a new home that doesn't torture us with Wikipedia all day. Okay? We got to think. The slurs aren't going to do it for Kick. Sorry. We just need to get him gone for good. We could all be pogging out in Hassan's chat right now. So what's the beef you have with Dr. K right now? Exactly. So he said...
any beef with Dr. K. Can I listen to what he said, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll listen to it.
Okay. Wrong about some of it too, but... Okay. So, this is a study called Suicide in the Absence of Mental Disorder, a review of psychological autopsy studies across countries. Okay. So, we conducted a systematic review of, what is PA? Psychological autopsy studies from 2000 onwards, okay? Up to 66.7% of suicide cases remain without diagnosis in those that only examined Axis 1 disorders. So 14 studies looked at Axis 1 disorders, which means more acute mental illness, not personality disorders. And 66.7% of cases remain without a diagnosis. Approximately 37.1% of suicide cases had no psychiatric condition in research papers that assessed personality and Axis 1. So if we start looking at personality disorders like narcissism or sociopathy or things like that, borderline personality disorder, then the number of undiagnosed people drops to 37%. Okay? And then... Stephen does a great job of this. He says later on, I don't know exactly where he says it, but he says, like, I believe that there are going to be studies which will show no evidence of mental illness, but I think that is a case of undiagnosed mental illness that is really there and causing them to malfunction, okay?
Which is interesting because it's saying here, in general, areas in China and India had a higher proportion of suicides without a diagnosis than studies based in Europe, North America, or Canada, which seems to imply that as well.
So it's like, when we look at this study, does this mean that this person was not mentally ill or that they were mentally ill and we just didn't pick it up? Okay, so let's just look at another paper. So I think when I was talking about the actual study I was referencing was this one. So this is from the American Journal of Preventive Medicine. I think this is a group out of UCLA as like the primary authors here. Okay, so these are like real research articles. Okay, most male suicide decedents had no known mental health conditions. Most. Okay.
Makes me wonder what problems Anthony Bourdain or Robin Williams must have had, according to that paper. Robin Williams had degenerative Huey body syndrome or whatever. He had like neurodegenerative brain problems. I mean, what do you mean? That's not like a secret.
And more frequently, those without known mental health conditions died by firearm, and many tested positive for alcohol. Adolescents, young adult males, and middle-aged males without known mental health conditions more often had relationship problems, arguments, and or a crisis as a precipitating circumstance than those with known mental health conditions. So this is really important to understand, because what this study suggests is that it's not just that we're missing stuff. It is that we can look at these cases And what we can find is that prior to suicide, these people had relationship problems, arguments, and or some kind of crisis in their life, okay? Now I'm going to show you all a paper that counters this, sort of, okay? So let me see if, okay. So this is a paper on the epidemiology of suicide and from a psychiatric perspective. I think this really looks at a lot of World Health Organization data. Yeah, the majority of suicides worldwide are related to psychiatric diseases. Okay, so here's another paper that was published in 2018, which concludes that across the globe, like most of these things seem to be related to psychiatric illness. So we have some papers saying, okay, this is very little, like 2/3 are not psychiatrically ill. We have some papers that say the majority are not psychiatrically ill and they have relationship problems. And then we have some papers saying that, okay, like suicide, like mental illness is a huge risk factor for suicide and maybe associated with suicide, all that stuff is fair, right? So how do we interpret this stuff? So this is where we've got to be super careful. So I want you all to really understand the way that we interpret these, and I think Destiny did a great job of kind of analyzing this, right? So when we look at a scientific paper and we say, okay, the evidence suggests we do not see any history of mental illness in somewhere between 37 and 66% of people who commit suicide, men who commit suicide. Now we have to be super careful because what a lot of people will default to is say, okay, this is undiagnosed mental illness, but that's not actually what the data shows, right? So this is where we can say like, okay, I believe that fairies are responsible for curing cancer. And then I look at a study that shows there's no evidence of fairies in 66% of cases. And then I say, well, I think that fairies are an important part of curing cancer. And in those 66% of studies, we just didn't detect the fairies. So we have to be super careful there because what we're actually doing is we're taking a piece of data and we're interpreting it based on our belief system, as opposed to looking what the actual data says. The actual data says there's no evidence of mental illness in somewhere between 37 and 66% of people. Now to counter that point, just like Destiny points out, we know that the rates of mental illness are undiagnosed, or there are high rates of undiagnosed mental illness. We don't really know what those are, but whatever our estimates of mental illness are, they're certainly worse. So there's a very good argument to make that these people are mentally ill. On balance, I do not think that the rates of mental illness, like undiagnosed mental illness, are super, super high. I tried to find statistics on it. The numbers are somewhere between 40 and 100%, which means that if we're diagnosing 20% of people with depression, what that means is that the real number is somewhere between 30 and 40%. It's not like we're not missing like, 9 out of 10 people. We're missing maybe 1 out of 2, and that's sort of a generous estimate. So even if we assume that we're missing 1 out of 2 and we double the rates of detection, right? We're still like talking about a large chunk of the population, somewhere between 20 and 40% of the population that doesn't have a mental illness that's committing suicide. And the other reason I believe that is because of studies like this.
Careful. Ooh, he's super right up to this point, but I think he's making a statistical error here. If it is the case, for instance, that we are just missing 1% of the population that has depression, and we're missing that 1% that's being diagnosed, that 1% would probably over encapsulate the entirety of the suicided population. Keep in mind that the entire population is not killing themselves. It's a very, very small fraction of the population. So if 1% of the population in the United States is 3.3 million people, well, if there are 60,000 suicides a year, what is it? How many suicides per year, USA? If there are 50,000 suicides overall, yeah. If there are 50,000 suicides in a year, you would only need to miss 0.5%, not even, I'm sorry. You would need to miss about 1/5% of the population, I believe. 330 million times 0.2. No, times 0.02. But yeah. Do you think mentally healthy people kill themselves?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, mentally healthy people?
No? You don't think there's ever a good reason to kill yourself?
Not on purpose?
Well, kill yourself implies on purpose, yeah.
No, a mentally healthy person?
What if you lose your job, you get divorced?
Then that would probably make you not very mentally healthy anymore.
Oh, so people become mentally unwell because of bad things that happen in life and then they kill themselves?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, just curious. Fuck, where was I? 330 million. Okay, hold on. 1% is 0.01. 0.01. 1/5 of a percent is 0.002. Oh, wait, so it would be even less than this then. My numbers are correct. 1/5. It would be a very, 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 very small percentage of people. Sorry, Jesus. Anyway, yeah, if you're missing your depression diagnoses by even like 0.001% or something, you could still theoretically be missing the entire population of suicided people. So I think his statistic thing here is a little bit off. But I will say that he is correct that if you're analyzing all the suicided people and you see there's a whole wave of people that don't have any diagnosed mental illness, it would be incorrect to say, oh, well, I think they are all mentally ill, it's just undiagnosed, because that's not what the evidence is suggesting. He is correct there. My point there where I say I think that there is something going on that's not diagnosed, that's just baseless conjecture by me. Or I wouldn't say baseless, but it's like this is an intuition or feeling I have, but that's not based in data. I would say that. Okay. To be clear, yeah.
Right, I can show you all that if we look at this, like if we look at suicide, we can see that there are other precipitating factors that aren't mental illness, which is why people kill themselves. There's data around this, right? So it's not just. So I think here's kind of where I am with this. It is a valid.
Oh, I would also. I'm trying to think. I think that you could kill yourself. I think there can be like acute suicidality based on crazy life things. So, for instance, I could imagine a person who's mentally healthy. I could imagine people who are mentally healthy who have a really bad string of things who kill themselves. So, for instance, like you're doing fine, or you might be mentally healthy, and then all of a sudden you lose your job, you flunk out of school, your child dies, and then your mom and dad just and you're like, F me, and you kill yourself. I could imagine that in an acute, like within a week of this happening, or a few days of this happening, or a few hours, you kill yourself. I can imagine that happening. Okay, sorry.
It is a shocking statistic that in the most alarming studies, 66.7% of people who kill themselves do not have mental illness. That is an alarming statistic. I don't think that the number is actually that high. I think that we're missing a fair amount of mental illness, for sure, no question. Now, how much? I don't know. Now we get to a core problem, which is that this is not just like Dr. K saying this, right? So this is also where I should say that my clinical experience about this has been scary. Because I've worked with these people who I don't think...
To me, it seems pretty obvious that you could rationally commit suicide. The big question is whether in the modern world, say for truly acceptable... That's the issue that I have, is that like, I don't know if you... Like, I feel like a healthy human brain has a high level of self-preservation. I think an ordinary human body, ordinary human brain, you have a very high level of self-preservation. And it should take a lot to break that down to the point where you're going to kill yourself, right? So the idea that you're committing suicide over some bad events happening rather than a mental illness, that seems really extreme to me. That would be my feeling on that.
They're mentally ill. They just look at their life and they're like, I can't do this anymore. This is not a sustainable way to live life. And then you may say, then why not change it? Because they've tried and failed. They're not willing to make the change. They're unable to make the change. They're powerless to make the change. This is why you believe that you're going to check out, right? And that's why I think we need to help them, which is what I do in my job. But we've got to be super careful going back to this basic issue. Okay?
Can you call Dr. K and talk about this? If he's streaming on Twitch, we can't. We're not allowed to because of the way this wonderful website works. Only Hassan can watch me on Twitch, nobody else.
So when someone comes in and says, my life is shit, what are we saying, right? What's the right move? Do we say to this person comes in, and I have suicidal ideation? Do we assume that 1% of people are malfunction of the mind? Or do we say, okay, like we're going to not be paternalistic therapists. We're going to listen to you. We're going to acknowledge that you know your life better than we do. And if someone shows up and says, all lives have value, like, I think that's great. Like, I think it's great that you believe that. Now what I want you to do is, if you're someone who believes this, and what would it take for you? What would you have to go through to change this belief? What would your experience of life have to be? How bad would your life have to be to change your mind that every man has a life worth living? What kind of shit would you have to go through to throw you off of that?
I think, and that's why I'm saying for a healthy brain, conditions that persist that are never going to change, that's what persistent means. Conditions that persist indefinitely, that you can't acclimate to. So my understanding, so for instance, like losing limbs, which I would imagine is a death, I would kill myself. I would imagine I'd kill myself. Apparently that doesn't happen.
Wait,
And I think,
really?
what?
How many limbs we talking?
No, not losing limbs, but like if I went like blind or deaf, I would imagine I'd feel
Okay, well
suicidal.
then say
Yes.
shit you fucking mean,
Because
bro.
for a lot of people, losing limbs is a big deal, okay? But
It's not
yeah,
for you.
for a
So
big,
if you lost all your limbs, you'd be fine.
no, I feel like I would feel suicidal, but apparently a lot of people get over it somehow.
If you lost your, would you kill yourself?
No, but your mom might kill herself. So
Okay, all
so-
arms, all legs, and dick gone.
yes, but but my understanding is I don't think people ever adapt to chronic pain. I could be wrong. Well, let's look it up. Can people adapt to chronic pain? My understanding is that this always feels bad and horrible and is terrible. But maybe I'm wrong. Let's check. Eating well, getting plenty of sleep, engaging in improved physical activity are all positive ways to handle your stress and pain. Can you live a good life? Well, most articles focus on the negative aspects of pain. There are individuals such as Anne suffering from chronic... Anytime they got to point to one person? Oh, no. Suffering from chronic pain who can still manage to live a good life. Jesus. Pain resilience health resources. Huh. Don't lie, you have this hunch or feeling from watching House, didn't you? No. What? If anything, I have this hunch or feeling because I lived in a retirement home from when I was 16, 17, and 18, when I lived with my grandma. South of 25th and K Park, Tregarian Senior Residences. If I have any old senior people living in Bellevue watching me, near Offutt Air Force Base. But old people that suffer chronic pain, it just seems like it's an always horrible, evil, like, It feels like one of the worst things that you can have. Like it's up there with like mental illness, like having chronic pain where you're just always hurting or sore. And I think that's why these people are prone to drug abuse. I'm sorry, hold on. Do you think that House invented people abusing pain medication for chronic pain? Do you think that's that's like saying like, man, I have a really big interest in like detective stuff, or I like to investigate stuff. Oh, really? Did you get that because House invented investigations or what? You don't think that boxers or MMA fighters don't adapt to pain? No, what? The pain that you get by fighting is way easier to deal with and is way less severe than chronic pain. Anytime you have a source of something that can be abated, that you can move away from, that's way easier to deal with than a chronic, everlasting, horrible thing. Even for me, I prefer like anxiety or stressful events on some crazy shit where I can identify the source of it rather than like general anxiety or like a chronic feeling. This chronic stuff is just, it's another level of nightmare, horrible shit. I don't know how to explain it. If you haven't felt it, then it's whatever. I mean, I haven't even had chronic pain before, but like just in watching people deal with it and the idea, the mental anguish, like dealing with conditions that are chronic versus just like, why am I even explaining this? Okay. Okay, my understanding is there's no way to... What? Wait, is this Hugh Laurie? Did he transform into, William Dafoe?
And now what we really need to understand is that this is the experience of people who are suicidal. Instead of assuming that they're weak or broken, life have to be to change your mind that every man has a life worth living. What kind of shit would you have to go through to throw you off of that? And now what we really need to understand is that this is the experience of people who are suicidal. Instead of assuming that they're weak or broken, let's assume for a moment that their lives are objectively incredibly hard, that their lives are nothing like the lives that we live. Because this is what I've seen, and I'm not the only one. So, there's another, just these emails that I wrote to my friends.
I hear, actually, Lucas, listen, I'm a moron. So why don't you just simplify what the disagreement is right now? Put it into a nice 30
I don't know. I haven't watched his
clip.
full response yet, but it basically has to do with like, I'm summarizing and I haven't even watched it yet, but it sounds like what he's basically saying is that his contention is that some people, I guess young men is this focus here, some people's lives are actually so objectively bad that a reasonable mind could look at the circumstances of said life, project circumstances into the future and go, this, I want out, and kill themselves. And his argument is that when you approach a person like this and you say, oh no, you're actually just brain broken, you're unhealthy, you're mentally unwell, you need SSRIs or therapy or blah, blah, blah. What you're doing is you are, there's a word I'm looking for, you're devaluing or you're invalidating their lived experiences and you're invalidating their perspective of life by basically saying like, oh no, sir, you don't have a good perspective on life, you're just crazy. Go to therapy instead for your craziness, not for your life issues. And that it makes those people feel unheard. I think it's like, that's like the Steelman version of the argument that he's presenting. And I think the position that I would come from is, I think that being compassionate and being accepting of people's life stuff is important, but I would say that I feel like you need to lean more in on the other side where I feel like what people are lacking is resiliency. That the issue that you're running into is if you feel suicidal because you didn't get into a college you want, or you feel suicidal because you're 27 and you haven't had sex yet or whatever, that what's actually happening here isn't just a set of life circumstances, because given your life on paper, you shouldn't really want to kill yourself, but instead it's a framing of the world, it's a perspective of the world, it's the resiliency you have towards adverse events, and it's your ability to persevere in a world where everything isn't always working out as great as possible. And then the truth is going to be somewhere in the middle where you have to counter on both of these ends, like acknowledge, like, yeah, I understand why this sucks, like this must feel horrible, especially when you see this, that, and that. He probably feels like I'm way too far on my side, and I probably feel like he's too far on his side. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, I don't know. But okay, let me listen.
Something a couple years ago, and I remember I showed them to one of my colleagues, and I was like, I was thinking about talking about some of this stuff publicly, and I was like, but I'm not ready to yet because I'm pretty sure I'm going to lose my job, at Harvard, an academic position. And he was like, oh no, if you talk about this, you're not going to just lose your academic position, you're going to lose all of your positions. And so I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So
yeah, make strategic moves. I know.
So Atlas also is an awesome content creator. We had a conversation on men's issues like years ago, and like that's what the climate was back then. And thankfully, I think the climate is better now. Like, so it's challenging stuff, and I think this is the reason, right? So the moment that you start saying stuff like this, people will start interpreting all kinds of weird things. Not weird things, I think they're reasonable, but it's like, so this is where. Let's understand like the dialogue here, because this is important. It's not that if I acknowledge that my client or patient has a life that is not worth living, that doesn't mean I tell them to go kill themselves. In fact, quite the opposite. I'm just going to say this again. It's to say, hey, bro, I understand that you have a life that you think.
Although I will say this too, and this is hard because this all gets lost in the online bullshit. Whatever Dr. K says about this stuff, like I know that he's a hack he believes in this Indian magic. No, I'm just kidding. Whatever Dr. K says, I know that the applied practice of whatever theory he gives is going to be better than the craziest straw man version of whatever somebody could think it is. So like, for instance, when Dr. K is saying this, I'm assuming, and I would give a high level of credibility to Dr. K because of who he is. I'm assuming that when Dr. K, if he gets a young man that comes into his office or practice and he starts talking to them, he's not just gonna be like, oh bro, 100% like your life is horrible and I see why you could kill yourself and it's everybody else's fault around you and it's just like, yeah, it's a really bad life. Like, I'm sure he's gonna be doing a combination of things to make this person more resilient, to understand and empathize with their life situations, to help them alleviate things in their life situations. Like, I'm sure he's gonna be doing a combination of things. He's not just gonna be like leaning to one side and being like a demagogue dipshit from fucking Twitter or whatever. 100%, yeah.
Not worth living. That doesn't mean I tell them to go kill themselves.
It's not a coincidence that his explanation of what is going on with male suicide perfectly fits with his overall messaging about problems with the modern world and need for spiritualism. Well, of course it's not a coincidence because they all probably stem from a similar area of belief, right? Of course. Like, it's no coincidence that Destiny cucks out for the messaging of the government and also tends to believe, like Big Pharma when they publish studies. Yeah, of course not. It stems from a relatively stable belief in like third-party validation and studies and shit. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it comes from a similar area. But that's not to discredit anything he's saying.
In fact, quite the opposite. I'm just gonna say this again. It's to say, hey bro, I understand that you have a life that you think is not worth living. I would like to help you.
Yeah, like if you listen to what Dr. K says and you're like, wow, Dr. K would just tell people to go kill themselves because they have a life that's not worth living. Like that's, like I think Noah's, and I don't even blame Noah's opinion because you might not know anything about who this guy is, but like that's, obviously he's not gonna say that. Well, maybe it's not obvious if you don't know anything about Dr. K, but you're going way too far there.
In fact, quite the opposite. I'm just gonna say this again. It's to say, hey bro, I understand that you have a life that you think is not worth living. I would like to help you deal with these objective problems. Instead of just assuming that you have a bunch of cognitive bias, which is making you misunderstand what's going on, what I would like to help you do is find a romantic relationship, build a career, build a body that you are not embarrassed about. Right? These are the actual goals. And in order to accomplish these three things...
The one thing that I would add to this, though, and this is so hard, or maybe it's impossible, or maybe I'm just genetically gifted, okay? I don't know what it is it's nice to build on all three of these things, but it's nice to have a mind where you're comfortable with yourself if these things aren't exactly where you want them to be. And I think that's resiliency. The nice thing about resiliency too is that these things can drop off, or these things can like fluctuate as life goes on, as they tend to, and then you don't feel suicidal, you don't feel horrible when they fluctuate because you recognize that everything is a work in progress, and it's like, okay, we'll figure it out. We're on the road, You and Dr. K talked about this exact thing 3 years ago. Yeah, he messaged me yesterday to talk about this stuff, and then I messaged him today. Or I messaged him like 10 minutes ago, yeah. Well, maybe, hopefully at some point.
In my experience as a clinician, that's when we get to this. Because this stuff interferes with this in a way that they don't understand, right? And this is where am I being paternalistic? No, I mean, I think there's actually like a skill set of things that people who are in this situation have never had the benefit of learning. And due to issues like trauma and stuff like that, they have so many things going against them, they just have no ability to start because that's not how, human beings don't really pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Almost never.
It's him telling people that they don't need help with their mental health, but instead just need on his coaching just a business move. No, I wouldn't assume. My assumption would be Dr. K makes enough money that he's not like doing any weird shit like that. If I would critique Dr. K on anything, which by the way, not only is Dr. K over credentialed versus what I'm going to say, he also has real world application practice as well. So like if our messages are ever in direct conflict and I was a listener, I'd probably lean towards Dr. K unless Stephen makes a really, really, really compelling argument, just as a heads up. Okay. If we end up conflicting anything. But I would say that if I had any criticism of how Dr. K does his messaging, it's probably because Dr. K is being a bit reactive to the prior messaging online, which is just go to therapy, you're mentally ill. Go to therapy, you're mentally ill. Oh, you're sad because you're a virgin and you're an incel? Go to therapy, you're mentally ill. Oh, what's this? You're upset because you're 33 and you don't know how to make any friends and all you know how to do is smoke weed and play League? That's because you're a retard. Get some SSRIs, go to therapy. You're just unwell, go to therapy. Oh, have you tried going to therapy yet? Oh, what's this? You're incredibly upset because you're 220 pounds and you don't know how to control your diet. You feel like you don't have many friends. Have you considered therapy though? Have you tried going to therapy yet? Right? He's probably pushing back against this idea that like, oh, the answer to every single thing is just that you're mentally ill and you need to go to therapy. Probably because in his mind, he feels like that's a little bit invalidating of people's experiences. And if you hear that and you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm just a retard then and I need to go to therapy to fix everything. That would be my guess of where this is partially coming from.
Sometimes it happens. But generally speaking, what we know is like humans who are successful because they get other humans to help them. And at the beginning of the top list is like parenting. Healthy parenting is such a huge advantage in life. And what is healthy parenting? Healthy parenting is help. The most important help that you will ever receive in your life is from your parents. And if you did not get that help, you have such a disadvantage. But that doesn't mean that the problem is in your head. That means that you may actually have a life that is quite crappy. That doesn't mean that you should kill yourself. It just means we need to do a better job of helping you. So let's look at some other papers. Okay. This one we'll skip for now. So this is kind of interesting. So a couple years ago, we had someone come up with this concept of diseases of despair. So what we did is we looked at, let me see if this is the paper. No, we'll get to this. Let me find this. I want to find the one with the diagram. Do you have the diagram? No, you don't have the diagram. Do you have the diagram?
How can you trust yourself to say, it's okay, I'm working on it, and know for a fact that you aren't just coping or making excuses? I mean, it depends on what exactly you're talking about. But I mean, for some things, you can just objectively track it. If you're trying to lose weight, you can see if you're losing weight. The important thing is being okay with yourself. That's just step one. Now, you can be okay with yourself in a self-destructive way. Not a self-destructive way, in a destructive way. So for instance, you can say like, oh, well, I think I'm working on this and I'm just fine, but everybody else in your life is hurt because you're not working on it. And so then you would have to look externally, but it depends on what exactly you're looking at or what they're doing at.
Here we go, this paper. So, we started to realize something. We saw some disturbing trends, okay? So, for example, deaths from diseases of despair in Britain comparing suicide, alcohol-related and drug-related mortality.
At Destiny, I've been in a living hell for the last 9 years, and in short, my life has been on pause while everyone else's life has moved on. I've contemplated / moved towards deletion, but I've stopped before going too far. But I can definitely see Dr. K's point because I'm living it. I think that one of the issues is, and I've said this a million times before, that a lot of life works the way that it does because it's kind of like on rails. You don't have to think too much. So for instance, how do you know, but there's not a whole guide on how to make friends in grade school. Typically, if you go to school, it just kind of happens. You just make friends. You're stuck in other people, you do these things, right? I think that as our life has become more atomized, meaning we're like separated out into these different things, as you're on the internet more and communities become like a little bit separated from real life stuff and real life communities, I think that all of a sudden now you're having to ask questions that never were asked before. Like, I don't think that it would be a question, this would be my guess, I could be wrong, but my guess would be like 7 years ago, a man who's 25 doesn't say like, where do I go to meet friends? Like, you're always, like, there isn't a computer or internet to be on. You're always going to be going out. You're always going to be part of a community of people that are churchgoers. You're always going to be part of a neighborhood community. You're always going to be part of a union where you do meetings and shit. You're always going to be part, like, there's always going to be things that you're just a part of, and I don't know if that's the same anymore. I remember meeting new friends. It's actually, when I was growing up, so I mentioned like the townhomes and the black kids and all these other types of people that I played with. The only reason I met those guys is because my grandma lived in a row of townhomes, and you just went out back to play, and you went out back, and there's just like a bunch of kids there, and you run around, and you start playing with them, and that's it. Or when I was like 12 or 13, when I started riding bikes, you'd meet friends, and whenever you'd like bike around, sometimes you'd see other kids playing, and you'd be like, oh, hey, who's that? You'd like go chat with them, and you'd start playing. Or when you go to bike to meet your friends, they would have some other friends there, and you just like meet them. You're like, oh, cool, who are these people? I think real life interactions facilitate that type of stuff really well. Online stuff, it's so much easier to be so much more exclusionary, and I think that's really scary. I don't think we gravitate naturally towards those environments. I bring this up with the Tinder example a lot, that people think that, my friend is making a really bad financial decision, hold on. I was just gonna say that, like, when it comes to like dating, for instance, you could date people that you would never imagine you would date. There are people that you could date where if you saw them on Tinder first, you'd swipe left. You go like, oh, too short, or too fat, or oh, this person's a conservative. Oh, this person's got MAGA. Oh, this person says they read books. Oh, this person likes anime. Oh, this person doesn't like video games. Right? You can hardcore select for things online, but if you were just in real life and you met these people and you're in a room, you'd be like, oh, I really get along with this person. This is fun. But if you saw them like on paper, you might ask them first, and that's like a small microcosm of a lot of the online world problems, I think. Yeah. Destiny says chat so much more than anyone I've ever met. That's because I insert your mom joke. It's weird, but I feel online is more real than real life. It used to be the opposite. I'm very reserved online now versus now I'm very sociable in real life. Maybe, sure. Hold on. Somebody got my friend to fall for the open a business in another state and don't pay taxes meme. It's not.
You mean an LLC or?
Yes.
Well, hold on. Let me. What state?
If you live in no, if you live in
no, it's not what I'm talking about with taxes. There can be advantages. Like, for instance, right now, if I did my corporation different, I would set it up in Wyoming instead of Florida.
if you're working, if you yourself is working in a state,
I understand on the taxes.
Yeah.
But there's a yearly cost of
we're not.
maintaining
That's
an
not.
LLC.
That's not at all what we're talking about. I understand. What you're saying. What you're saying is right, but that's for more. This is basically they think that if they open an LLC in another state, they can just pay taxes in that state and pay no state income tax in the state they live in. That's not possible.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah.
For everyone doing emotes over Wyoming, it's actually, I think, probably the best state to set up an LLC. The advantage of doing it is that I believe the yearly fee is either $50 or free. I'd have to double check. It's been a while. And it's one of 3 or 4 states where it has private registration. Mostly when you create a company, anyone can go and look up the company and they can look up all the officers. I think that's going to be anyone that has over a certain amount of equity in the business. It probably depends on state. Anyways, so it's not very private. So if you wanted to create a new LLC for your fucking dog trimming business or whatever the fuck it is, and you didn't want your name and address to be public, well, if you create it in your state, it will be. All they have to do is look up like Dogwarts LLC, and they're going to see, fucking Brick Wall's full name and address right there, done. But if you do it in, I think it's Wyoming, Nevada, New Mexico. Yeah. Anyways, I think those 3 states you get to be anonymous, and they also have relatively low fees compared. Like some states, I think like New York and Massachusetts, if you have an LLC, you have to pay $500 per year, not in taxes, just to keep the fucking LLC. Like just to have, that's just a cost. It's like, hey, you have a company, $500 a year forever, as long as you have a company. And that's kind of bullshit if you think about it. So if you're starting an LLC, try to do it in one of the 3 states I mentioned, and you'll save yourself some money, and you'll gain some privacy. You're welcome. That's it. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with what I said. It's correct. You're welcome. It's all true. Some states are really. I think some states are over $1,000 a year just to own a company. Like that's fucking crazy. That's not even like, hey, I'm paying taxes on the income I've made. It's just, hey, $1,000 a year. Fuck you. And it's like, it's just that's a up thing I think to do for small business, because obviously it has no effect for giant corporations. But if you're just like, again, just starting like a restaurant or something, like, is that really like I have to pay $1,000 a year just to have a company? That's not fair. That's fucked. Now, one thing to note on top of this, when it applies to real estate, many states will make you register even if you have a foreign company. So, I mean, I know everyone in here is fucking poor and not a landlord, but if you were, and you were going to buy real estate, having a LLC in Wyoming, even though that LLC can own it, you're still going to have to pay the fee in the state that the real estate is, regardless. So there you go. Now you know a thing. See, you guys know something now. You know something very few people know.
Wait, wow, no pushback, Destiny, just because it's your friend? Wait, what did you just say?
Everything I said was correct.
What did you just say?
Get him on here, whoever was wrong. I was talking about corporations and, that anyone who's setting up an LLC, for the most part, should do it in one of those 3 states.
Wait, in what state? Or why?
Wyoming, Nevada, and I think it's New Mexico.
Why is that better?
Lower fees yearly. So some states will charge you up to $1,000 a year just to have a company.
I could be wrong, but I don't know.
You're wrong.
Oh, okay. So if you live in, say, California, you can have an LLC from another state, and you don't have to domesticate it. You can infinitely gross money through that business, and you never have to set up a business entity in the state of California. That's 100% true. So what you're saying is, if you live in California, there should be a single LLC in the entirety of the state. Every single LLC should always be set up in a state with better tax treatment. That's what you're saying. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome. What an amazing loophole. Why would anybody ever have an LLC in fucking California ever? My bad. Okay, that's good. Okay, no, that's good. That's great. Thank you. I'm glad I heard that. I'm going to shut down my business right now. Wyoming, you said? Where's my tax guy? Kill my business right now. State of Florida. End my LLC, please.
You dumb bastard. I already went over this with everyone else, and I told people that some states, when you have some business going on there, you may have to also pay a fee there. And I gave the example of real estate, but you weren't listening. You know why? Because you're talking to some fucking
Sir,
dumb bastard.
you are a
who's trying to set up a
fantastical
company.
moron.
Yeah, you
Have
are.
the humility
Yeah, you should
not display
you
your
should.
imbecility
You are talking
to everyone.
You are talking to an expert. You should have the humility to listen. Your knowledge came from Wikipedia.
Okay, wait,
I have
hold
been
on,
doing
wait.
this in
Okay, wait,
practice.
serious question. Wait, should I not have my LLC set up in Florida then? What benefits would I get if I set it up in Wyoming?
It would be completely private, and you would pay. You would save $400.
When you say completely private, you mean like there's like no public listing of anything?
There's no public listing of the officers. You only have to have a what do you call it? The agent, the
Registered agent,
I
yeah.
forget. Yeah, that's it. So you just need one of them. So you save money yearly. That's the big reason. Because I think in Florida it's $500 a year. Yeah.
Probably something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so you save $450 a year. Now, I mean, if you're going to open up like a fucking ice cream shop, I have no idea. They might require you to have a Florida LLC. You have to look into that. But for what you do, you absolutely do not need a Florida LLC. There's no benefit to you. You're not conducting business specifically in Florida, so to speak.
Yeah, I
Now,
feel like
if
when I
you-
was in, I thought that, I don't remember this. I'm going by what accountants told me. I thought you had to domesticate businesses if you were doing primary business in certain states. So like if
gonna
I
be
work
something-
in a
yeah.
particular state, I can't have a foreign LLC and route all of my income through that. Obviously, you're not talking about tax avoidance, I know, or tax anything like that. But even for just operating, I thought that the business had to be domesticated or like recognized or had an entity in the state that you were doing primarily your work out of.
So it's going to completely depend on the state, the individual state. So you are right that people should check before they just do what I say, because you might get double taxed. But that said,
Well,
I
you'll
think
never get double
Wy-
taxed, but I know what you're saying. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean double fee. But actually,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
Wyoming might be a pay once and then never again. One of them is you pay and then you don't have to ever pay the annual. It's called the annual report. You don't have to pay that fee ever again. It's one of those 3 states. Anyways, for real estate specifically, a lot of states do that. Like, and California is really bad because California, even though I don't live there, I have real estate in California. Any income that's made there, I still have to pay California income tax on. So that's something kind of unique.
Wait, hold on. Wait, say that again?
I have property in California
Yeah?
that I own, and it's not a California LLC that owns it. I own it, and I have to pay California state income tax on that.
Okay. That might be because the real estate is there. You would get an
exactly.
exception.
And
You wouldn't
that-
have to pay it like in Florida or well, Florida has no state income tax. But you live in another state with state income tax, you wouldn't have to pay it twice, right?
Exactly. Not necessarily. Some states do it, some states don't.
But it doesn't
then
matter
the other-
because California is already like the highest, so you're getting fucked pretty hard there regardless, right? Yeah.
But so some states do the thing. So for instance, in New York, I'm pretty sure this is true. So let's say you have a Wyoming LLC, and I want to buy a building in New York. You can do that. That's fine. And then the Wyoming LLC will own the building in New York. But New York is going to require you to go ahead and register your foreign company with the state. And the cost of registering your foreign company with the state is the same exact thing as having the local LLC fee. And in addition to that, they also make you publish all the data from. Actually, no. I think you remain private if that matters to you. It's very few states that force you to unmask the directors. There's only a few that do that. But yeah, so that's I think that's it.
Okay.
I'm sure some of that is completely wrong for like Idaho, and someone's going to send me a message and be like, "Hey, you fucking moron." In Idaho, if you don't have a local LLC, you literally go to jail. Great job. Thanks a lot, asshole.
Damn. Dan is really
Yeah,
amazing
it
at
could be-
yapping, which is why he should have a podcast so at least he can get paid for it. Oddly Gamers, 1999. True.
That's hurtful. It's a personal attack also.
Dan should come on Bridges. You can be our third guest, okay?
Oh boy, yes, that's what I want.
Yes, I know that's what you want. And you will enjoy your time here. Okay, listen to more Dr. K. Love you. One sec.
Birth cohorts in Scotland, England, Wales, and selected cities. So a couple of people noticed something, and they noticed something kind of scary. Okay, so I'll show you. So this is trends in the diagnosis of diseases of despair in the United States between 2009 and 2018. Y'all ready? Ready to get wrecked? We'll talk about what diseases of despair are. 515,830 participants received a despair diagnosis, 58% male, median 36 years. From 2009 to 2018, the prevalence of alcohol-related, substance-related, and suicide-related diagnoses respectively increased by 37%, 94%, and 170%. Ages 55 to 74 had the largest increase in alcohol, substance-related diagnoses. Hey, let's try to be a little bit kinder to the boomers. Can we do that, please? Can we? I know some of them are not nice to us, but can we please be kind to the boomers? And here's y'all ready? Y'all ready? Internet generation, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, ages less than 18 had the largest increase in suicide-related diagnoses, 287%. The odds ratio for men is 1.49, which means that 1.5 times is likely, or 50% more likely. Okay? And then there's some stuff about the Affordable Care Act. So like, this is scary, right? And this is, by the way, is related to diagnosis. This is not a study looking at people who kill themselves who don't have a diagnosis. But what does this mean? Diseases of despair. So here's the other like crazy thing, which if you look at this research, like here's what you begin to see. We're gonna talk about addiction and suicide for a hot second. So in my experience, there are 2 routes to addiction. Number 1, you have an addiction. Number 2, you are slow playing suicidality. So now it sounds kind of crazy, but let's understand this. See, when you're suicidal, you've given up on life. Life isn't worth living. So what do? Right? In the worst cases that we want to try to prevent, you kill yourself. But you don't have to kill yourself fast. The other thing you can do is get an addiction. And as I work with more and more people with addiction, what I've started to realize is this is a slow suicide. My life is empty. I have nothing to look forward to. So what am I going to do today? Let me go ahead and fuck the world and fuck my future and fuck everything around me. I'm going to get high. I'm going to jerk off. I'm going to watch porn. I'm going to play video games because life has nothing to offer. So I'm just going to indulge in this dopaminergic spurt. Addiction diagnoses, I think in like, I want to say 30% ballpark. Honestly, the number's probably higher. These people have given up on life. And they're just extracting whatever they can from this biological sack while they're alive. Honestly, that's been my experience. And this is what the diseases of despair tell us. So a group of clinicians realized something really interesting.
I think I agree with what he's saying. I think something that's really important is hedonism in and of itself. I don't think is necessarily a good thing, but I think everybody should be hedonistic. But I think that hedonism needs to be paired with fulfillment. So being hedonistic, meaning being able to enjoy like baser carnal things in life, whether that's playing video games, smoking weed, fucking Dan's mom, going outside and just like hanging out with friends, like just doing things that don't necessarily like further some big goal or whatever, but just like feel good and are fun. I think those are important things to have in your life, but I think it should be paired with some sort of greater fulfillment as well. So you're also like practicing a hobby that you really care about, something that's like honorific, it pays tribute to like a cool thing about humanity. So this might be doing sports, it might be practicing an instrument, it might be building models, or it could be like the pursuit of like a career that you feel is like contributing to the world or something in a meaningful way. You work at a law firm, but you also do free work for public defense on the side, and you feel really passionate about that, or you're a volunteer or something. Like I think that pairing these things together is really important. Some people, I think, take a poor view of saying all hedonistic pleasures or all basic pleasures should be removed from life. People saying like, what do games help you with? Should you ever play video games? And it's like, nobody wants to live a life where you can't enjoy any type of just basic carnal pleasure, right? Like I don't know if my life is enriched by watching anime, but it's like fun. I enjoy it. That is a type of enrichment. I do enjoy that, and I do have a lot of memories relating to hedonistic fun things that are cool, but also you pair them with fulfilling things as well. Hedonism without any type of fulfillment, I think, very quickly turns into self-destruction, and then it's not hedonism for hedonism's sake. It almost becomes like hedonism to like mask the pains of life. In my opinion, that's the difference between like smoking weed because it's fun and you do it every now and then or recreationally with friends because it's cool versus smoking weed every single night because you need it to calm your anxiety and sleep. I think that even though these are both smoking weed, I think they're 2 completely different approaches to doing that drug.
Which is that there's a group of people who seem to be despairing in life. These are people who, it's not quite depression. So this is not like a neurochemistry imbalance in the brain that is triggering all this. There are groups of people, so if you look at research in the UK, fishing villages in the UK are notorious for this. The economy sucks. These are oftentimes young men who are given these attitudes of independence and being, like what makes a good man? A good man provides. And when the economic situation that you live in allows you to no longer provide, you can no longer be a good man. And what do? You turn to alcohol and other kinds of things. That's why they look at, if you look at the diseases of despair, there's a reason why they look at these particular diagnoses. They're not looking at like generalized anxiety disorder or OCD. There is a different kind of construct, which is when people genuinely...
Oh, hold on. I just had a weird brain blast idea, but I haven't thought about this at all yet. I wonder if we can find data on this. I wonder if women enjoy working more than men, or if they have a healthier engagement with work compared to men. Because something that is said often is that men work to provide. Men are providers. Men want to provide. That's why we work. And now if you're like not earning enough, or if you don't have a family, it's like, oh, well, fuck. Well, now I feel shitty about working. But then like a question that immediately pops into my head is, well, why the fuck do women work? Why would you work as a woman if you're not like providing or taking care of anything. And then I wonder if women are happier working jobs for themselves and just earning shit and having fun versus I wonder if men are not as happy with that. I wonder. I have no idea. How does this statement interact with the fact that men who don't work have huge spikes in depression and suicidality that isn't mirrored in women? Well, is it because the men aren't working so they don't enjoy working, or is it because they feel like less of a man? I have no idea. But I mean, less of a man, that's a very vague thing. Maybe that ties into all of that. I'm not sure. Why do people make that distinction? What makes hanging out with friends so different than the fulfillment from pro bono law work? It all feels a bit holier than thou to make that distinction. I think that there's, I would have to go on a whole philosophy arc, or not really. I would have to sit down and write this out to expand on this more. But I think that, broadly speaking, when I think about things that are fulfilling, I think that there are different huge buckets that these things fit in. Usually things that are fulfilling, I think, tend to be very high friction things, meaning they require a lot of prep, a lot of practice, a lot of work before there's a payoff. So they're usually high friction things. Usually they're things that other people can enjoy. So like creating a beautiful piece of art might be something other people can enjoy. Playing a sport really well might be something that people like to watch. I think that they're things that usually are honorific. They pay tribute to some unique facet of the human experience. So art, obviously, creating beautiful music, or like the Sistine Chapel. These are things that animals couldn't create, humans do. Yeah, I could probably think of more, but like these are broadly speaking like fulfilling things. I think hedonistic things tend to be the opposite of all of those. So hedonistic things tend to be very low friction. It's just an easy thing to do. It just comes naturally almost. They tend to be very low friction. Other people tend not to care about them. People don't give a fuck if you jerk off or if you, grind league all night. They tend to not be, I think, as like honorific. They don't pay tribute to a facet of what humans are capable of. Animals can masturbate or do drugs or hang around with friends and do nothing. Like broadly, these are very, very, very broad categories. And there's going to be some things that are that in an illusionary sense kind of overlap. For instance, like a professional gamer or a professional athlete, we might treat that a little bit differently than somebody that just smokes weed and grinds league every night or plays beer pong, like just getting wasted with friends or something. Maybe, yeah. But remember, I'm not saying that one of these is good or one of these is bad. Like, I think you can probably pursue too many things in life that are fulfilling to the detriment of everything else, and you just become fucking miserable. People that force themselves to go to med school, they don't have a social life and they hate themselves, like that might not be good. They commit suicide or whatever. Or people that pursue too many lower things, too many hedonistic things, and they don't have any fulfilling things, and then they feel empty and hollow at age 30, 35, and they realize that their life doesn't really mean much and they want more meaning. I think you have to, but I think a balance is important. I think people tend to look at hedonistic things and go, those are bad, and they look at fulfilling things and they go, those are good. I don't think either of these things is necessarily good or bad. I think that they're just different, and I think you probably need both of them in your life. That'd be my guess. But I haven't like super developed that thought. Maybe I would feel differently if I thought more about it. Are women allowed to enjoy a more hedonistic life without society shaming them for it? I don't know. I would have to think about that. I lean more towards men having more opportunities to enjoy hedonistic things. That's where I lean, but I mean, I could probably be persuaded out of it one way or another. I'd have to think about it. I'm not sure. It also depends on the society that you're in. Like, this is a feeling I have. I feel like women are pushed more, for instance. If you've got a family and you've got 4 children and there are 2 women and 2 men, I feel like the women are pushed more to have kids than the men are. That's a feeling that I have. But I hear that repeated so often. I wonder if it is actually true. I don't know if you could, again, do research and find out, like, are boys pushed more to have start a family versus girls to start a family? In a family where there are boys and girls. Now, if you just have boys for children, then maybe you push them a little bit more. But that's what I've heard from friends and stuff. I don't know how true that is socially. Depends on the type of hedonism too. Sure. Once you have kids, it's super socially unacceptable to engage in anything hedonistic, even going out for drinks with friends. It's not really the same with men. Yeah, that might be true, but there's a delineation of responsibilities where men are working and then they get to relax after work, whereas women are kind of like taking care of the family, and it seems like they might have to do that always. Like, women always have to do that. You can even see a vestige of that echoed in the red pill community, where like men who are dating are allowed to go out to clubs and have fun and stuff. But if you're a woman, you're not going out to the club. You're not having a f***ing girls' night. You're not going on a f***ing trip. What the f-? Like, you can see that that's like a hyperbolic, exaggerated version. But I think it's a similar. Upvote the super chat if you want desire to do immigration research and stop reacting to random videos. Can you upvote? Oh, here, I'll give you an upvote. You mean like it? You can like super chats now? What the fuck? Oh, it's not letting me click because it's too laggy. The amount of people I heard in my life to quit trying to pursue art as a job because the money is worthless, regardless of how much I find fulfillment and enjoyment, is insane. Every guy around me finds more value in the dollar amount you bring home, regardless of how much you personally hate your job. True, however, I think the art thing is unique there, Wolfgang, because I don't know if they're just quitting their art jobs because they just hate art and then, or like they start to hate art. I think it's probably because the job relating to art is not the same as the fulfillment relating to pursuing art as a hobby. Like, I like music a lot, and it's fun to like, when I did, write my little composition challenges and everything too, like those are fun. But if I got a job writing commercial jingles, I might hate music. I might be like, fuck this shit, I'm done. I'd rather go work for literally anything else. I don't know.
We have a life that is crappy with very little opportunity. We see a certain psychiatric manifestation. Okay? So I'm going to just run through like a sample example of like what this conceptual model of diseases of despair. This is a fantastic article, by the way. So let's look at where this starts. Like, so here's the key thing to understand. Mental health outcomes is at the end. This is the terminal event. This is not the cause. This is the outcome. Okay? So we have proximal life stressors like social rejection.
Is it possible to derive fulfillment entirely from a career? It is, but that is exceptionally rare. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so happy in my life. What's the name for that stupid Japanese circles, career, fulfillment? If you can hit like this middle circle, it's like you're like in the dream zone, but this is incredibly difficult. It's like there's things that you love, there's things that the world needs, there's things that you get paid money for, and there are things that you're good at. If you can find a thing that you love doing that like helps the world, that you make money doing, and you've got like a penchant for doing it, this is like the dream scenario for life. This is why, so like I'll say all the time, like, yeah, I work, my whole life is work, basically I'm always working, basically, more or less. But that's okay because I love it. I think I can argue that it provides a good to the world because of political shit or whatever bullshit. Obviously I get paid a lot of money for it. Obviously I'm the best at it. So this is like a really nice thing. Realistically though, you typically try to balance out, you know, like what are you good at and what can you be paid for? Like hopefully this is your career area, like it's something you're good at and you can get paid for it. Hopefully it's something the world needs, so you're not like a fucking scammer. Like this could be working as like maybe an accountant or something. Oftentimes what you love is going to be a little bit on its own, unfortunately. Or it'll be like a thing you love that you're also good at. Yeah. But it's hard to get in this, because there's so many jobs in the world that it's hard to imagine that somebody could really love doing this particular thing. Probably a lot of white collar work might be like that.
You feel like it's more important? So let's take the common normie. Would you advise them to do something that leads towards what their ultimate goal is, or to focus on something that makes more money? So like, let's say my dream is to be like a race car driver. Mm-hmm. Are you going to have me working as a mechanic near the racetrack and making a little bit less money, or should I be an accountant, which I went to college for, and do that?
The way that I look at my life, I just don't know if this works for everybody, but there's a bare minimum threshold that I need to survive. And as long as I have that met, then I want to do what I like. That's how I've lived my life for like the past 30 years, 25 years, I think. So for instance, when it came time for me to choose what to do in college, I didn't, well, I mean, I thought I'd be just working my whole life, I guess, because mom was kind of fucking at me. But when I was looking for things to do in college, I was already working at, was I working my casino job already? I think I must have been. So I know I'm making a ton of money at my casino job. So I'm getting paid for that, and I'm good at it. I'm really good at dealing with bad customers. I'm super patient. I can stay awake and work weird hours, and I'm a really good worker. I can pick up jobs around the casino very quickly. So this is like a good thing for me. Now, if I've got that, so the casino job took care of that threshold, that fundamental shit for me. I've got enough money to eat, to have a home, and have a car. Now I want to see, okay, well, what can I do that gives me like fulfillment in life? And that was music. So I'll go to college for music because I get the fulfillment there from the music side, but I've got the job is taking care of like paying for everything side, basically. So that's how I view it. I think that I feel like a healthy way to view life is that your jobs power your hobbies. I've said that. You get a job that you can tolerate. You don't have to love it, but you shouldn't hate it. And it provides for the bare stuff in life. And then on the side, you pursue your hobbies and your passions. But I feel like the issue is, and I don't know how to, I'm not trying to sound holier than thou, but like, I feel like people spend so much money on stupid, unfulfilling shit that they end up chasing a job really hardcore. So they end up doing way too much on the side of like vocational stuff, or not vocation, professional stuff, in order to get more money for like bigger houses, better cars, dumber clothes, whatever the fuck. And then they don't leave much in life to be more fulfilling. And then they end up just kind of having this like really lopsided balance of, well, I've bought a bunch of things, but these things only make me happy for about 24 hours after I buy them. And all of my life is going into work and now I feel kind of miserable. Or empty, rather, not miserable, empty.
Something that I think, because I've been pretty fortunate in my life, but something that I've read a little bit about, and I want to read more, is kind of Stoicism. And that is the idea, in general, to broaden out, let's say that you woke up tomorrow and you had a fucking $1 billion after taxes in your bank account. What changes for you, actually? Like, if you ask the average fucking moron in chat, the answer is, I'm going to buy a sick fucking house. I'm going to go travel. I'm going to get a Lamborghini. But like past that point, there isn't much substance of what they're going to do. Then you'll get some people who try to think like another step beyond that. And they start thinking like, oh, okay, well, I'll set up a charity and I'll try to help kids or something along those lines. And that's kind of like I don't want to say like a shitty answer, but like, what's your passion that you would do it? And I already know the answer for you. If you woke up with $1 billion, it would be no fucking different. You would be on here streaming every day, probably in a nicer apartment, but nothing would change for you in your life.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I think about that for myself. Like I can go, I could travel all year or go do other stuff. Is it a wasted life if I have 10,000 hours in Rust, if that's what I want to do? Right. And that's like something really kind of hard. It's something hard to balance, is that when you're older, you're going to look back at certain moments. You're going to look back, well, you'll probably say you won't, but you will. You're going to look back at your 10,000 hours in League, and you're going to say, what a fucking waste. That I could have gone and I could have done research.
Something that's really
else.
difficult for that, that's what I look back at my life without Vyvanse, I'll say that. Something that I think is, I don't know how you would balance this, but like, what if you had a person who truly was happy living a hedonistic life with no fulfillment, and they truly felt happy doing that until the day that they died? Has that person committed an error? The easiest example of this is...
That's a super tough question.
Yeah, like let's say, for instance, you really like heroin. Let's say that you don't have a family, you don't have anybody that relies on you. And let's even say you work enough of a job that like the medical system doesn't have to like pick you up or scrape you off the ground or anything, right? And then let's say that maybe around like, you do this on and off for maybe like 5 or 6 or 7 years. And then eventually you're like, okay, 28, 29, this is still really awesome. I think I'm going to OD today. Fuck it. Like OD, I'm going to die doing heroin. And you do it, you go out blissful as fuck, and then you die. Like, has this person committed an error? Are they wrong somehow? And then they say they super enjoyed their entire fucking life. So you could do an autopsical interview. You autopsy them, you interview them. It's like, what's up? How do you feel about dying at 28, 29, doing heroin and all this shit? They're like, it was awesome. I had a fucking awesome life. Didn't have to worry about any bullshit in old age. Didn't even have to save money for fucking retirement. It was like super sick. How do you argue with that person?
It's really hard. It's really, really hard. I mean, I guess the way you argue with that person is like, yeah, but dude, you could have done it for longer. Why'd you like OD so early? Like you could have kept going. Like that's an easy one to argue about. But like talking about the lifestyles that we live, which are just kind of pure, like, we could do more fulfilling shit. And I think we both know it, but we just I don't want to. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to.
Listen, my life is very fulfilling. Fuck you. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, okay. Like I'm going to use the League example again, and you can hand wave it all you want. When you're fucking 80 years old, you will look back and be like, I can't believe I wasted 10,000 hours in League that I could have maybe spent with my kid instead. And I get the same thought, like when it comes to Rust. But I know that thought also right now. Like I'm going to play like a video game today or something along those lines. And I still am aware of this thought today, but I'm not going to change my action.
Yeah, but
right?
that's like, it's weird to retroactively erase every single hedonistic thing and say my life would have, because like at that point you could say like, I don't know how to, are these called transformative experiences? Like for instance, you could wake up today and you could go, I hate that I ever ate any unhealthy thing ever. I should have constantly drank kale milkshakes. I would be so much happier right now for it. And while that's true, it's weird to say that you wished you would have done a different thing as opposed to living the life of doing that thing. Because the life lived of doing that thing might be not as much fun as you would have imagined. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think our default path in life is easy, simple, enjoyable. Like, I guess an example of this is like,
I don't know if I would agree with that, but go ahead.
Hey, man.
okay, well, like for instance, let's say I'll use an example for myself today. Like, let's say I just played Rust all day today, and I had a great time. And it was fine, right? I also could have instead like gone with my kids, gone to the movies, and done something fun today. And then tomorrow, if I was to look back and be like, and compare those 2 days that I did, so the day before I played Rust and then the day after I did that, which one will I remember more and which one was a better time? I will definitely say that it was the one where I went with my kids and we had a great time and everything else. But even knowing that, we still play League.
I don't
right?
like
We
I don't
still
like
do
the
that.
which one will I remember more. That's
Well, I'm
hard
not
because
saying-
wait, hold on. I'm just saying
Which
that's
one did
hard.
I enjoy more
No,
afterwards?
yeah, but I'm saying that you don't know that before you go into it. So for instance, like a lot of my do you remember, did you ever play the original DayZ?
No.
Ah, fuck. A lot of my DayZ time, I can even say with League actually, a lot of my League time was like kind of wasted, I guess. But there are also some of my fondest and funniest memories come from League of Legends, okay? I will always meme about it and remember like the Mr. Mutin screeching agony fucking streams and the agonizing bot line. But like I couldn't have known that before going into a game. Like, oh, is this going to be like a memorable game or not? I have no idea. There's also a lot of friends, like arguably my whole relationship with Lily Pichu and Double Lift and LS and all these other types of friends that I kind of like made on and off relating to League. Like all of this just came because of like dumping hours into League. You know, I can look back on any individual day and be like, God, I wish I would have played League yesterday. But you can't know that before you do it. Like any of these like particular moments might become a standout memory that you remember for the rest of your life. It's possible, right?
I mean, I guess. Okay. I want
Same
you
thing
to
with
think
like
about-
same thing also with the fulfilling thing. You might chase down something that's like super fulfilling and then realize after, you know, like a year or two, like, I hate this. This is fucking cucked. Fuck me. Why did I waste my time on this? Like I should have just fucking done some other bullshit, you know?
Okay, so let me posit you a hypothetical and think about it for a second. And it's okay if you go one way or the other, but it's a real question. So let's say hypothetically that you have 10,000 hours in League. Were you in Nebraska for some of that? You were, right?
Yeah.
For the League? Yeah. If right now, retroactively, I could take half those hours and instead have had those be time that you could have spent with Nathan doing things together, even on stream, playing games together with him,
Sure.
would you make that change? Would you go back and yell it past Steven and be like, hey, fuck this shit. Why don't you just play a game with your kid on stream instead? Same shit.
Well, there's this is complicated for like 50 million more reasons, but like let's just say like spend time with children in general, right? Because I probably wouldn't want 5,000 hours of Nathan stream time on stream, right? I think that's a lot for him to deal with.
Or even 1,000 hours. Or
Just
2,000, you know?
we'll just say like off, doing things like I mean you kind of have to say yes to this, right?
Yeah, so that's the problem, right? Is that
Yeah, but like let's say what if I could rewrite? What if you could rewrite?
You
and
don't
go,
need to rewrite.
No.
So like that's the thing to think about.
Yeah,
though.
I
You don't
understand
need to
because
rewrite.
you just like default value those experiences more than anything else. One, because it sounds good to say, and true, because in some ways it's I mean it is obviously it's nice to spend time with family or children and everything. But like, what if you could say that like, okay, well, what if you could spend 1,000 hours more with like a parent or a child or whatever and do this? But what if in those thousands of hours, what if you would have missed like key connections you would have made with people that remained with you for the rest of your life? Like for instance, what if you would have spent more time with your children at some point and then you never met like me or Mr. Mutin? Like there's probably
No. I absolutely understand that there's trade-offs with it. But what I'm saying is, so you've agreed, like, hey, okay, fuck it. If I could retroactively right now go back and have changed 1,000 hours of League play to instead have been off stream doing other shit, and just assuming I'm still here, I would do it. So you can take that and say, okay, I would have done that, but knowing that we don't change things moving forward. I mean, obviously Nathan's not here with you, so it's not a direct one-to-one comparison. So like use it maybe like exercising or something. So, but right now moving forward, if we use exercise as an example instead, moving forward, you're not making that change. You already know in your mind, if I could go back and change things, I would have taken 1/10 of my time and done exercise. I'm absolutely 100% on that. Well, you can make that change today, and we don't. And that's kind of the hard part to reconcile.
But that could just be that's because
important.
chasing hedonistic stuff is just more fulfilling than chasing fulfilling stuff. Or it's more easy. It's like we choose less friction sometimes, of course.
Yeah, always. It's like I think for us especially, it's kind of the default path to do, and it's hard to kind of balance that when we already live this life of we can do whatever we want to do every day. No one's firing us. There's no real
that's why you
fallback.
need, I think that's why having the guardrails helps a bit to provide that kind of guidance, because left to their own devices in the ultimate free choice world, I think more people would gravitate towards highly hedonistic stuff, and the fulfilling stuff would get lost a lot. I think that's what it feels like. Yeah,
I think so as well. And I actually think, I wonder what do you think is going to be more in the minority? Like Molina versus Steven, both of them billionaires, right? I already know what Molina is doing all day. Molina is going to be traveling and meeting new people and doing crazy shit, skydiving, like every fucking day. That's what she's going to be doing. I have no doubt in my mind. I bet every penny on it. And you're going to be playing League. And so am I. I'll be playing, well, I don't play League, but I'll be playing Rust. So what do you think the breakdown of people, when it really comes down to it, is falling into one camp versus the other camp?
Well, wait, hold on. Are you implying that her hedonistic pursuits are more fulfilling than our video gaming pursuits, hedonistic pursuits?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, I super disagree on that.
Really?
Yeah.
I would say that if I could change my 10,000 hours in Rust to instead have been 10,000 hours of traveling or meeting new people or any of that stuff, that would be probably way better.
Yeah, but you've met new people playing Rust, haven't you?
Yeah, but I mean, it has to be that I would have had much more effectiveness going the other direction.
Would you? What like when you meet? I mean, I think real life things are important. But if you meet friends while traveling, these might be people that are cool, but you meet them one off and then you never see them again in your life because they're in a different country, right? People that you meet online could be friends forever, theoretically, right? I think it's a bit different, but also meeting people in real life is more fun because you see them in real life. You do things with them in real life versus just online. I think there's pros and cons, but I wouldn't say that one is like clearly better than the other. I think they're both hedonistic in their own ways.
They are hedonistic, but I think one of them, I guess, gives you more different memories and more exposure to different cultures, different people, things along those lines. I think that like it probably is more rewarding. You don't think you would change it, really? Like, no bullshit. Like if I could flip the switch for you right now, and instead of having 10,000 hours memories of League and Mutant and all the other bullshit, you could instead have 10,000 hours of anything else, you wouldn't flip the switch.
Well, hold on. We're getting lost in the sauce. When you say 10,000 hours of anything else, then probably I would choose something. But I don't think that just traveling and skydiving and stuff and doing those types of real life things, I don't know if I would count that as anything more than hedonistic. I think it's just hedonistic, and it's just a different type of hedonism. There might be really fulfilling ways that you can travel. So, for instance, let's say that you're super religious and you want to visit every famous church in the world, or you want to visit every famous mosque in the world, or you want to make Aliyah to Israel and go see the land of your people, or let's say that you want to go to Mecca and see, like, that type of travel experience, I think can be very fulfilling. That there's like a greater purpose that's being served there than just you go and you skydive or you have fun or you hike a mountain or whatever, right? It just depends on what you get out of it and how you view it. Like, I've traveled a fair bit. I get nothing out of it. I don't give a fuck. I've seen a lot of beautiful things in the world. I don't care. The Notre Dame or whatever in fucking Montreal was super fucking beautiful. I don't give a fuck. I've been all over the South Island of New Zealand. Super beautiful. Don't give a fuck. Yeah, there are things that I remember.
Is there anything that you think that you could have done, or is it just you accept what it is?
Well, no. I mean, there's always better things you can do. I just take issue with specifically the traveling thing, I think.
Okay, fine. Maybe that's a bad example. For you, maybe it's something more along the lines of being more productive with politics from an earlier state.
Oh, yeah,
even
sure.
Right now, right?
Yeah, no, that's definitely a thing to keep in mind. Yeah, I think about that a lot, like trying to balance out the hedonism versus things that are more fulfilling versus like what are you capable of. That's the thing. I actually think about that all the time, but that's just really hard to balance out. Well, especially in my career because it's not like I have other people I can model myself after to figure out.
Is there anything? What do you think you're doing now that should be changed, or you're kind of like, I enjoy it, but I know I shouldn't, and it's a waste? Is there anything like that right now?
There's always like things I can optimize. Like, should I not cover any drama whatsoever on stream, and should I we turn the stream on and we instantaneously start reading and politicking? That's one thing to think about. Sometimes I wonder if I should be cutting away from my stream stuff to hang out with friends and people in real life more. Is that something that I'm skipping out too much on? Sometimes I wonder if there's like changes in rhetoric. That's not really the same. It's hard to balance everything out. Or it's not hard. I'm not sure what the right answer is all the time because I seem to enjoy all of it pretty evenly. So it's hard to know.
Yeah. I think it's interesting to think about sometime. It's really the question of what would you do if all of your I guess the better question is what would you do if you did not have any need for attention and all of your financial things were met? Because obviously a lot of what we do outside of trying to pay our bills and be, we have the, Maslow's hierarchy of needs and everything like that, but attention is a big part of that. And you have to think to yourself, what would I do if all of a sudden I woke up and I just didn't give a fuck if anyone knew who I was and I didn't need attention anymore? I didn't want to talk to anyone. What would you do to fulfill your life?
It's hard when you say that because like one of the things I enjoyed the most and have since I was like in high school is like arguing with people. So like, isn't that already kind of built in, like a form of attention seeking? So
it could be.
Like I think I've joked before that like if I was like working at McDonald's and I wasn't a streamer, I'd probably get home from work and then I would like hop onto Twitter and I'd be like fighting with people or debating on Reddit. That's probably what I would do naturally.
Yeah, I think the reason I bring it up is that I think for a lot of people, they think that it's shallow to like care what someone else thinks, right? Or to have that type of interaction. Like, why would I care what you think? That's boring. Or who gives a shit what someone else thinks? But we do. We care greatly what other people think. It's one of the main driving things that we have, especially.
Well, kind of.
What are the richest people in the world? What do they do?
I would be,
they
seek. But I would be careful when we say we care what people think because that can be broken down into a lot of constituent parts that mean very different things to each other. So for instance, I say this a lot. I say like, I don't really care what people think about me. In one sense, that's very true. In another sense, it's very not true. Like, how can you say you don't care what people think about you when your whole public everything is oriented towards the debate and convincing people to believe your ideas, right? When I say I don't care what people think about me, what I mean is that my personal assessment of myself and how I feel emotionally about myself is not heavily influenced by other people around me. But like the arguments that I give, the way that I'm viewed, the way that I'm perceived in terms of like the values and everything I represent, that is important to me. I want to make sure there's an accurate perception there or one that maps onto what I think in my head. So when you say you don't care about what people think about you, you do care about what people think about you. I think you have to clarify what exactly you mean by that. Because in some sense, yeah, we have to. Otherwise, society would fall apart. If nobody cared what anybody else thought about them, we'd all walk around with shit in our pants, being crazy, right?
No. I would default to the idea. I think a lot of people say, "Who gives a shit what someone else thinks about you?" I think it's actually wrong. Like, I think it's the most important thing is having social relationships, and it's the thing that matters most in our lives. Because ultimately in nihilism, nothing fucking matters anyways. I think it's probably the most important thing that we have is experiencing new relationships with people.
I think you have to be careful though when people say who gives a shit what other people think about you. When people
that's
say
a very common thing to say.
Yes,
that's
but when people say that, they're not saying like free yourself of all societal expectations and walk into the wilderness and do whatever you want, blah blah. Usually that's being said to somebody who cares way too much what other people are thinking about them, and that's being restrictive. That's being like restrictive on that person's choices for life. Sorry, don't let me interrupt you. I know you were talking to the amazing Tiny in chat. Go ahead. You can keep talking.
Listen, you do the same fucking thing, and we've done this for every podcast we've had the whole time with fucking dumb shits in fucking chat saying, "Hey, you're interrupting the immigration studies." Well, go fuck yourself and read Wikipedia, you dumb fuck. You need him to read it for you? Is that how fucking stupid you are? I can't. These people are fucking actually retarded. That's what they are. All right? Listen, it'll happen when it happens. You know what? It may not even happen at all. Oh my fucking God. You know what else isn't going to happen today? This is going to blow your fucking mind. Guess what? That Turkey Tom thing, he's not going over it today. Suck my dick. I'll bet you any amount of money, you fucking dumb fuck. And you can go and whine and say, "Hey, the Turkey Tom thing is out. Can we watch it together?" And it's not going to happen. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Listen. I think social relationships are the most important thing that we should foster in our lives. And I think it's important also to give back, but not for the reason most people do it. I think most people probably give back to the community for recognition. I would say probably almost everyone does it for that. I think it has to change. It has to be, I don't know, something else. I don't have it yet. But I think a lot about it, this whole thing of like what really matters in the end, because it's important, I think, for you, especially. And
I think that when you have
especially.
those questions, though, when you're thinking about like what really matters in the end, like you have to balance out, because I think a lot of people get stuck into that trap, not because they're genuinely having a crisis of fulfillment, but because like enough people are saying things that like, oh, am I doing the wrong thing?
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between like you're 35 and you're like, I've worked my job for a while. I'm looking back on things. I'm looking at what I have now. I feel like I want something more. That's a lot different than you're 35, your seventh set of friends just had their second child, and you just saw somebody got promoted to partner at their law firm, and you're still just like a tech worker, and people are saying that like, what's your legacy going to be? And you're like, oh God, I have to do something. I think that the second one, who cares what people think about you? Fuck off. Like that would be what I would say to that person. But for the first one, it's like, okay, well, if you feel like you genuinely have a hole that you're looking to fill, then yeah, I think you should start looking for things. I think there's a difference there though, between the external pressure to find fulfillment versus like feeling like you want to find fulfillment. Wow, Patrick, thanks for the 10 gifted subs.
Yeah, I mean, look, the only reason I bring it up is I think it's important. I mean, it's important for me, so I think about it a lot. But I think it's also important for you, and you might have kind of you might have a better handle on it. But I think it's important to think about because you are in a very unique place in your life where you can be thinking about Stoicism, which is you can do whatever you want with the rest of your life. You're in that position financially, you're in that position socially, and sometimes it passes us by and we default to doing the same thing every day because that's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, but I think when that's happening, I think people have a subtle awareness of it. I think somebody knows that or can feel that. I might totally change my mind on this. I don't have a strong commitment on this here. But I don't think that somebody wakes up like in that Pink Floyd song, like, oh, you wake up and one day you're 40 years old. Like, oh God, what happened? I think that you feel the grind every day where you're like, go to work, wake up, go home, or wake up, go to work, go home, play some games, smoke some weed, go on Reddit, sleep, wake up. Like, I think you feel that grind every day if it's happening. It doesn't just creep up on you.
I could say that would be true. I think like we have the opportunity to make daily changes that we know about, and we don't, right? And that's kind of interesting to think about. I mean, I assume you have things that you would probably want to change and don't.
Yeah, but again, you keep saying this, and I've thought about this a lot in the past. You keep saying that like things that you would change. Saying that you would change something in the past is so much more loaded and involved than anybody thinks that I try not to think of things that way. Like for instance, that's why prospectively and retrospectively it feels so much different, right? Like if I was like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have spent 1,000 hours playing video games and I would have spent 1,000 hours doing another thing. That feels a lot different to say that because usually what you're doing is you're eliminating all of the negatives and you're assuming all of the positives right now. So what I say by that is I mean like, oh, I wish I would have spent 1,000 times reading classics or practicing an instrument. And what you're doing is you're assuming, oh, cool, I've got the 1,000 hours of benefit from that thing that I would have done. And then you're not thinking of all the negatives, meaning you spent 1,000 hours doing a thing that you might not have liked as much. You eliminate all the hedonistic stuff, right? It's easy to say right now that I wish I could recoup the costs and the rewards of everything in the past. But then when you look prospectively, okay, well, let's go in the future. Well, it would be a lot harder to do that. And your life might look like the enjoyment that you have in the day-to-day might significantly decrease. That's why I try not to look back retroactively and go, oh, I wish I would have min-maxed every single aspect of my life to be totally perfect.
Well, we're not even talking about min-maxing. We're just talking about making small changes. Like if
but when you say like deleting 10,000 hours of something.
Well, no, forget that then. So let's just say like, deleting 1,000 hours, right? Like, should you... Like if you would say to yourself, I absolutely should have for an hour a day have done X, learned to play an instrument, right? Like, and you're like, yep, I would have made that change. I would have given up an hour of League. Maybe I lost some connections, whatever. I would have done that. But moving forward, you still, even knowing that today, you won't do it. You're not going to pick up the guitar and end stream early, even though you know that that's what you want to do. And that's kind of the interesting thing to think about.
I guess. I just think it's a really poisonous mindset to try to like think of what you could delete and redo in the past and then recoup all the positives of whatever you practiced and delete all the negatives of the lack of enjoyment that you would have had if you would have avoided. I think with that retrospective analysis, you'll always hate your past. It's always going to be horrible.
That's the exact answer. That's correct.
Yeah, but the only reason why that's happening is the illusion of saying that like, well, the fun things from the hedonistic stuff never mattered, and the detriment of all of the practice for the other thing doesn't matter. So you're only collecting the goods of the thing you could have done, and you're deleting all of the other things from the hedonistic stuff. I just think it's a silly way to view things. You're always going to feel bad.
So
I
think that's actually the answer. Is that the default best way to live life is the hedonistic way?
Well, no, you should still balance it. I'm not saying...
because if you feel like you want to go and play the guitar today, you should do that. Or if you feel like you want to play Rust, you should. I think that is the best way to live your life.
Well, no, because there's still
doing
no.
that.
Wait, I can't. Are you trolling right now or?
No, I'm being serious.
No, there's
I've
some
thought about this a
level.
lot.
There's some. I think marginal utility is a good way to view a lot of these things as well. That if you do a hedonistic thing for 8 hours a day, if you cut away 30 minutes of it, and you do something honorific or fulfilling, that's probably going to be way better. Because going from 8 hours of hedonism to 7.5, let's say we goon for 8 hours a day. Let's say we change our gooning time to 7.5 hours, and then for 30 minutes we read a book. Your life
You know
is
what
probably
this
going
comes back to?
What?
This comes back to like, why not send a quarter? Okay, well, why not send 50 cents to save a starving kid?
No, hold
It's
on.
the same
No,
thing.
I just told you the answer is marginal. The marginal gain of something when you for the first step is going to be way bigger than the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth step, right? If I give a guy $10,000 and he has $0, I've changed his life. If I give a guy with $10,000, it's super fucking awesome. If I give a guy with $100,000, $10,000, he doesn't give a fuck, right? It's
Well, he still cares, but yeah.
a little. But so yeah, I'm saying that like if you're doing a lot in one area. So for instance, if you find friends that are super high strung and all they do is like high fulfillment, they never have fun or whatever, and you say like, hey bro, on Friday we should just go out drinking. That person's probably getting a ton out of that hedonistic moment of just like having some fun, having a drink, letting loose.
Yeah, but
and
I
chilling,
think that
right?
stuff comes naturally, and I think it doesn't make you. You don't have to make yourself do it. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think
about
any of it
hedonistic.
comes naturally. No, I think all of our life is pretty hardcore guardrail.
Yeah, no, I think that is the hedonistic lifestyle. Essentially, is like you do what you want to do. So if like I want to play the guitar, I'll go do that today. But then if I don't, I won't. But you can't look back being like, I would have enjoyed yesterday more if I spent an hour playing the guitar, even though that probably would have been true. That's not a way to live your life. I think you just live your life every day and basically do what you want to do. I think that is the path forward, and that naturally
But I
you
think-
will ascend to do things.
I
that
don't
have
think so.
meaning.
I think that there are some things that are on the fulfillment path that you have to force yourself to do a little bit until you get into a routine of it, I think.
Maybe. I mean that. Yeah. I mean, sure. Like you going to the gym.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
Like
something
that was
you have
probably
to
really.
force
That was
yourself,
probably
yeah.
really hard to do, and now you're in the pattern of doing it, so
Yeah.
to speak.
That's probably true of a lot of like fulfilling related things, I think.
But could you put that into the case of you wanted to push yourself to do that, and that falls
If you
into
get
being
ultra
hedonistic?
reductionist, then sure, every little thing in life is hedonism, sure. But clearly
Yeah.
on the abstract. But that's like saying like, do you want to eat my cum? Everything is atoms.
Oh, we're not going that far. But
Well, but
yeah.
it doesn't, yeah, I mean like, it doesn't make any, I don't think that's meaningful. Bitch.
Oh, you, bro. Man, there are so many people who are so fucking hopped up to like learn about immigration. This is wild.
The funny
to me.
thing is that all these people that are hyped up the most on it are conservatives that want me to discover immigration is actually destroying America. And if my research doesn't pan out that way, they're going to be really ass mad. But
PJ Forehead, the most. He wants to know. Well, actually, I'm curious. Hey, PJ, in Kick Chat, so I kind of already know the answer here. What do you think about immigration, buddy? I'm just curious. Do you think that we should increase it or decrease it? I'll read his answer to all the other chats for you guys. You can be brief. You don't have to type out like an entire sentence. He wants to increase good immigration, but he did the Pepe face. You know what that means, right? Yeah. Sorry.
nice.
That is a fucking cop-out, sir, when you say increase good immigration. But, well, let's kick chat. What are we gonna say? I know, and you know. We all know what you're saying there. Yeah. Well, actually, here's a better. Would you? Hey, PJ. Do you want more asylum seekers coming in? What do you think PJ's gonna say, Steve?
I have no clue. Listen,
Really?
let me give you a
You're
cheat
shocked?
code. If you're American and you hate immigration and you want to like hate immigrants and all that shit and you think immigrants are destroying the country, here's what I would suggest, okay? Go study Canadian immigration because I think in Canada that they might actually be fucking themselves up. With every
he's
bad
a
thing
fuck no,
that
by
you
the way.
think about, immigration in America might actually be happening in Canada, okay? What did you say?
He said fuck no, by the way. And I mean, obviously. Immigration shit.
Are you gonna live comment on the Turkey Tom Destiny doc? No, I'll probably watch it tomorrow. I don't want to eat his views today on it. I'll probably watch it tomorrow.
Dan, go back to the roof in Rust. Hey, I hang out in the open core, dipshit. That's fucking Rust from like 3 years ago. This guy's out of the meta. He doesn't know shit. Okay. All right, immigration. Fuck it. Let's make these people happy. Maybe we can make it more fun. Okay. How can we make immigration interesting? God, this is such a boring topic.
Why are we talking about immigration? Why did you switch?
Because that's what listen, that's
You're
what they
getting
want.
two guide.
It's more, there's like 3 or 4 of them, probably, to be fair. All right, fine. But what else is to go to this?
Okay.
I already think I'm right. I think my lifestyle view is
I don't think there's a
nihilism.
right or wrong way. I don't think you can
There
solve
is.
life.
It's nihilism is the only acceptable way to go, that none of it matters because we have no proof otherwise.
It can't.
And
You
as
can't
such,
be. Oh, sorry. As such, go ahead.
And as such, we should go for maximum enjoyment for right now.
Okay.
Because you know, here I want you to give you a thought.
Well, here, hold on. You said something a long time ago that I disagreed with about humans just choose pathology resistance. I think that it's part of the human biology or something in us also makes us want to contribute to something more than us. That seems to be the case, whether it's for family, whether it's for society, whether it's the guy that willingly signs up to war to defend his country, whether it's the person that martyrs themselves for their religion, whether it's a person that volunteers and flies to another country to help, feed people. Like, there is something in the human psyche, in the human mythos, in the human genome that makes us want to do things that are greater than ourselves for like all of humanity. That does seem to be some part of us. We feel good when it happens. There's always been like a pull towards humans to contribute to society in that way. So I think that's worth keeping in mind when we think about like ways to live our life. So I wouldn't say it's totally nihilistic or meaningless or whatever, because some of it, we're powered somewhat internally by that drive. Like a lot of human advancement has been powered by that, I think, too. So yeah.
Yeah, but I think those people just have a different type of hedonism that
Okay, you're
sends them
reducing
on
it.
that.
Okay,
that sends
I'm
that-
gonna come.
No, I mean,
from now on.
if
Do you want to go out to
wanna
eat
be a
tonight?
fucking super soldier,
Do you want to go out?
That's
do you want to
fine.
eat tomorrow?
What?
Do you want to go out to eat tomorrow?
I mean, I guess.
Okay, I just need a 48-hour warning because I want to save and edge a huge fucking load for you because I want to come in your mouth for like
You're,
2 minutes.
You're being fucking
no, it's all
retarded.
atoms. It's all atoms.
That is
It's
not
all
what I'm
atoms.
saying.
It's all atoms.
No,
I just want to
I'm
come in your
saying
mouth for 2 minutes because it's all atoms, Dan.
How do you even go here?
What do you
are
mean? It's all
mentally
atoms.
broken.
Can't it just all be
Listen.
atoms?
Listen to me.
Okay.
Okay. We are having a deeply philosophical discussion.
Yes.
That will
My
be
going to be deep in your
analyzed by the
throat,
greats
feeding you. Come.
In
It's
the
all atoms.
22 and 2300s, they're going to be studying this as the two greats. Okay.
No,
I'm
because by
telling
saying
you-
that everything is hedonistic, you're missing the point. That's like
No,
saying
I'm
I want to
saying-
put rocket boosters on planet Earth so that I can double the fucking rotational speed of the Earth around the sun so that I can legally fuck a
How can you be-
9-year-old. It doesn't make any sense, Dan. You're trying to find a
How can you
loophole to a
be-
thing that isn't actually helping the conversation. Yes, and at its very root thing, everything makes us feel good, but the reasons why we feel good are what we're talking about. That's the difference between hedonism and fulfillment, okay?
Okay. I don't know why you're being so retarded. I'm saying different people like different things. That is obvious.
Yeah, but there's a
Melina-
different type of enjoyment from fulfilling
I'm gonna
things
fucking kill you.
Okay,
You
sorry,
shut
go
up,
ahead
you
and tell me
fucking
why
bastard.
everything at the end of the day is just hedonism. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying everything is just hedonism. I'm just saying that okay, the number one thing that you want to do today is fucking stream to these autistic retards. And that's fine. And that's good. And you're going to do it. And the number one thing that Melina wants to do today, I mean, maybe I should stop bringing her up because she's not in the picture.
I don't
okay,
care.
the
Go
number
for
one
it.
thing that someone else wants to
That
do
a
today
Swedish girl that
is
likes
like,
traveling would do. Go ahead.
is like go skydiving or something. That would be like sick for them. Okay, but both of those are hedonistic things, and both people probably think that there's better ways that they could spend their time. If you ask them, like, hey, listen, yesterday you skydived. Is there something better that you could have done? And that person say, like, yeah, I probably should have like helped out at a soup kitchen or something along those lines. I'm saying that different people have different paths of hedonism, and that the default path should be to do that. So if you want to be a fucking super soldier, okay, and go to Iraq and fight for your fucking country and be the most patriotic dude, that's because you want to do it. And you feel fucking hard doing it. And you want to go over there and kill as many people as fucking possible and all that shit. And I don't think that that is worth more than me or you, like, than you wanting to play League all day. That guy's doing what he wants to do. It's not hard for him. He wakes up and this is all he fucking wants to do. Now it would be hard for you because that's the last thing you want to fucking do.
You're defining hedonism as doing things that make you feel good. That's not how I define hedonism. Is doing things
How do you define it? Maybe it's the wrong word.
So I thought you were in here when I said this earlier, but hedonism to me, the way that I view hedonism is usually they're actions that have very low friction involved, meaning it's very easy to do these particular things. Usually they're things that only serve your interest. They make you feel good. There was a third thing too. I was balancing this on the other end versus like fulfilling things are usually things that pay honor or tribute to things that are uniquely human and uniquely cool. Usually they're things that give back to other society, to give back to society in some way, usually, or other people can enjoy it. And usually they're high friction events, things that require a lot of preparation, a lot of work before you get like the enjoyment part. If you define hedonism as just things that make you feel good, then everything in life, sure, is hedonism. But that's like tautologically, we do things that make us feel good by definition. It's not like you do things that make you feel not good, because anything that you do that makes you feel not good, you're doing it because it makes you feel good. And so like even sadism or masochism is just at the end of the day, hedonism, and everything like that's definitionally true.
I would say that most people do not live a hedonistic lifestyle and have no opportunity to do as such.
Okay, how do you define hedonism?
Prioritizing pleasure over
what does pleasure mean to you?
I mean, it can be whatever you personally
Okay,
enjoy.
then every single thing is hedonism. You got it. Because if somebody gets pleasure out of going to soup kitchens, I guess that's hedonism for them.
Yes.
Okay.
If that's what they love to do more than anything else, I feel like that is the definition of hedonism, to do that.
Okay.
I don't know why some people are saying like this is wrong. Like I feel like this is the exact like
because it's so reductive that it's made the conversation is meaningless now. Every single thing is just yes. You're saying that humans fundamentally seek things that make them feel good. That's true, but we're talking about the types of things we seek. We're the conversation, we're having an abstracted conversation away from just humans do things that make them feel good.
So we kind of touched on it a little bit when you got into exercising a little bit, and maybe I shouldn't have been so dismissive of that, is that you forced yourself to make a change in your life that you did not want to do at that point. I'll concede that I shouldn't have said that was part of hedonism, because that wasn't the case. You probably didn't want to go and exercise that first day or the second day, but you forced yourself into it and you got through it long enough that you were able to make a change, but you're not doing more of those things moving forward, even though now you're happy that you've made that change. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, I'm Googling hedonism because you're making me feel like I'm.
No, don't Google it. It's just about what we're talking about. Why would you Google a definition? I'm trying to find out retroactively what you're saying in this conversation. Googling one doesn't help us now.
Okay, I am saying.
But we could use a different word if you want. I'm just saying when I was using hedonism, I was referring to something a more sophisticated concept than just pleasure seeking. Because arguably you could do pleasure seeking in ways that are fulfilling or not fulfilling. It just depends. Some people might enjoy going to the gym. Some people might enjoy practicing an instrument. Some people might enjoy painting or being a doctor and helping patients. Just because you enjoy it doesn't make it hedonism, though. I
disagree.
Okay.
If they enjoy it more than anything else, that is it. That is the number one thing they want to do. That is the most pleasure that they can get. That is seeking pleasure from the best way that they possibly can.
Okay, then what do you call things that are hedonistic in a way that is easily accessible and doesn't benefit anybody else and is just self-serving versus hedonistic in ways that are benefiting other people and are doing good for humanity and take more practice and effort and are more unique to you?
I don't know what you call that.
Okay, well, the difference between those two things is what our conversation was about, instead of just about people do things that they want to do.
Hedonism can't also benefit society. I'm just saying that it could still be hedonism.
Okay.
See, what you're doing right now is being fucking dismissive.
I'm not being dismissive. It's just the whole. But then, if that's the case, then definitionally, every single thing is hedonistic. And then we're having a conversation of like,
that is not
do
true.
humans seek things that make them feel good?
Let's say that right now I'm like, hey, dipshit, you need to go fucking work on the studio. Do you want to do that?
No,
you don't.
Stop. I would say no, I don't. So it's like not hedonistic. But then you would go, well, Destiny or Steven, if you actually really want a podcast though, and you actually realize that would make you feel good in the long run, then you'd say, oh, well, going down and working on that is something that actually does feel good to you because it's going to make you feel good in the future, and you realize that. So the conversation, you've defined every single thing as being hedonistic. So of course it is.
I would not say that. That was what I was asking about: is how do we influence changes in our life to get past the default state of hedonism?
Because I think you have to find things that are not hedonistic that give you greater fulfillment. Things that are hedonistic tend to not give you a lot of fulfillment.
Okay. I mean,
I'm not going to use a condom tonight when I fuck your mom, just so you know. She's gonna have babies. You're gonna be all over the place.
Witron. Dan, hedonism is definitionally just indulging in instantaneous pleasure retard. I'm pulling up the definition of hedonism because I think you're the retard. And we're going to use Wikipedia also. Okay. Hedonism refers to the prioritization of pleasure in one's lifestyle, action, or thoughts. That sounds like exactly what I'm saying. Doing whatever you want to do because it's the most pleasurable thing. And for a super soldier, that's fucking going over there and killing people. That's all he wants to fucking do. I don't understand the disconnect here. So you're I literally don't fucking understand. Prioritizing pleasure over everything else. Now that can be a net positive for society.
Dan is going to say some people might find it pleasurable to go to med school and become a doctor and treat patients. That's how. So everything is. Pleasure,
No, I think very few people would do that, and that's not hedonistic.
Arasto called it admonia, the satisfaction derived from one fulfilling his purpose was. I don't know, bro, did you have a stroke typing this? True happiness is a side effect of fulfillment. Hedonism is making pleasure the purpose.
That's a great example though, is the med school thing.
Okay.
I think probably nobody fucking wants to go to med school, right? Like it sucks. You're fucking tired all the time. You're cramming. I feel like very few people are like, oh, this is sick. I fucking love this. I can't wait to get up and like be in classes all day or whatever the fuck they do. Like that's probably not the case. They're all thinking about the eventual goal of like, man, my life is going to be fucking sick once I'm a doctor and making money and I'm going to be able to do all this cool fucking shit. So I would say that that is not hedonistic, the whole process of going through med school, but people do it. And there is a benefit towards that. I'm saying you're in a unique position because you can do whatever the fuck you want. You don't have to go to med school to achieve some other goal. And you also have this point where all you want to do all day is stream politics. You're doing exactly what you want to do. So it's a unique place to be. There is no med school for you. You are being the doctor, and every day is you're doing exactly what it is that you want to do. And that's interesting and unique and very rare in the world. No, not many people can get up and just do exactly what they want to do today. So today, if you want to get up and do fucking nothing and not even stream, you can do that. Or if you want to go fucking skydiving, you can do that. That is a rare position to be in, and it's unique. And the questions that I can posit to you about changing things are also unique. Wouldn't you say?
Wait, you were talking to chat or me?
All right, I'm gonna fucking kill myself.
Wait, summarize that in 3 sentences.
You're fucking trolling me.
You were talking about med school, right?
All right. You know, you don't deserve me.
I thought you were talking to chat on this.
And well, you turned off and stopped listening?
Can somebody?
Okay.
What did you say? Okay. I'm listening.
Let me try again.
My brain is.
Try again.
Go ahead.
Would you agree that going to med school is not hedonistic?
Correct, but we're defining hedonism completely differently, so this is an
then why don't
absurd
we pull
question.
up Wikipedia?
What? No, it's not about how Wikipedia defines how you and I define it.
No. We're
Okay,
going off
let's
the
go by the
Wikipedia
wiki definition. Okay, Wikipedia, hedonism. Okay.
We are Wikipedia warriors in here. and I know
Hedonism
that
refers to the
you divert.
prioritization of pleasure in one's lifestyle, actions, or thoughts. The term can include a number of theories or practices across philosophy, art, and psychology, encompassing both sensory pleasure and more intellectual or personal pursuits, but can also be used in everyday parlance as a pejorative for the egoistic pursuit of short-term gratification at the expense of others. Which part of this intro paragraph do you want to borrow the definition from? Because there's like 5 different things in this one paragraph.
Well, I guess let's go with the number one thing that's stated, is that it's the prioritization of pleasure in one's lifestyle.
Yeah, but this doesn't work, Dan, because you've already said, well, what if it's pleasurable for you to do things that help other people? So we've defeated the word.
Wait, what part of hedonism says that it can't benefit other people?
Because generally when we refer to hedonism, we're referring to people doing things for themselves. That's why I'm saying...
No, that is not true.
Okay, if you want to use your own Dan thing, you can do that,
prioritize-
but this own definition says refers to the prioritization of pleasure in one's lifestyle, actions, or thoughts. Pleasure...
It does not say at the expense of others.
It doesn't have to be at the expense of others, it just benefits
Exactly.
yourself. Your pleasure is yourself.
Yes, and your pleasure can benefit other people.
It could, but not necessarily. That's why
Exactly.
That's why it also is used in everyday parlance as a pejorative for the egoistic pursuit of short-term gratification, sometimes at the expense of others.
Listen, I understand what's saying. It's not always, and you're trying to think that hedonism always means that other people are suffering.
What?
Basically,
When have I ever said that?
you stupid bastard! How dare you?
I just said that it doesn't consider other
retroactively-
people. It doesn't mean they're suffering. For instance, heroin, shooting up heroin can be hedonistic. That's not necessarily hurting other people.
Well, shooting up heroin probably is.
Oh, now he's
a good
going to say,
example.
well, what if the ambulance wastes money on you?
No,
Your
no,
parents
no,
are
I'm
sad, or
not.
blah,
No,
blah,
I'm
blah.
not. I'm not. I'm saying it probably is hedonistic. Absolutely, shooting heroin. If that's the number one thing that person wants to do at the moment, then yeah, I would say I would modify, if I could, the definition of hedonism to be the prioritization of pleasure in one's lifestyle.
If you want to modify the definition, then why the f did we wiki it instead of doing what I originally said, which is tell me your definition?
No,
now that we've
I'm
wikied
just-
it and you don't like it, now you want to give me your own personal definition.
Hold up. I'm fine going by the definition there. I'm fine. We can go off that first sentence all day, and everything I've said makes sense and is true. And the reason I bring it to you is because you are in a unique spot as a result of this. You are in the position that every day when you wake up, you do what you want. Exactly. True or false?
Tautologically, it is true, Dan, because what you want to do is what you do. It just depends on how you define what you're begging the question.
You cocksucker.
Well, that's
That
like
is
saying,
not-
let's say I go to a job that I hate. Dan would go, oh, well, you're doing what you want because you don't want to be homeless.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would not say that. That is not true. You're fucking putting words in my mouth, and I never said anything like that. In fact, I went and I said that med school is not
Okay,
hedonistic.
define me.
You
Okay,
fucker.
wait. So then question, is fulfillment part of hedonism to you?
What do you mean? I don't understand.
What does fulfillment have anything to do with anything, or are we even talking about that? Or what do we?
I don't know what you mean when you say fulfillment.
Well, okay, what do
does
you
that
mean when you say hedonism? Tell me.
I already said it. The
Just
first
say it.
fucking sentence there.
No, not the
Doing-
first. No. Tell
right,
me
fine.
in your own words. Minimize it. Push the little underscore. Minimize the page and tell me what does Dan mean when he says hedonism? Communicate ideas to my brain. What are you communicating? Go ahead.
Hedonism to me is doing what you want to do.
Okay.
I'm
Yep,
I'm
okay, I
trying to
gotcha.
simplifying as much as possible.
Okay. Yep. That's fine. Gotcha.
And
Doing what you
when
want to
I
do.
say what
Okay.
you want to do?
Yes. Yep.
I don't want to go to work, but I might have to.
Okay.
That's not hedonism.
Okay.
If I said fuck it, I'm not going to work. I just want to sleep an extra hour. That would be hedonism.
Okay.
Doing that.
Gotcha.
Going to med school,
Uh-huh.
not hedonism.
Okay.
Doing surgery, if you love that shit.
Yep. I got it. Okay. Yes.
Hedonism.
So then what was your question?
I was asking you in general because you are in a unique position
Yes.
that you can do whatever you want to do every day.
Yes.
Okay. You don't have any response. If you don't want to wake up and stream, you don't have to do it.
Yes.
If you don't want to be fucked around with that, you don't have to.
Yes,
Right? That's a
you're
unique
right.
thing. You have no responsibilities, no nothing.
Yep.
You can fuck as many people as
Okay.
you want.
I got you. Yes, I do. Yes.
I mean, I'm just really trying to
Yep.
drive it home because you're having
Aristotle
difficulty
differed between
understanding.
admonia, pleasure derived as a side effect of fulfilling one's true purpose, asking the big questions, being the best you can be, to hedonism, which is turning pleasure as the purpose itself. Okay.
I've completely lost my train of thought.
Well, where are we at? What's the next? Okay. Anything else?
Don't you fucking dare anything else me. You know what's fucked up is you have this way of acting like you have won or that you are like correct as a matter of de facto logic, and it is not the case. Okay, I think it. Let me ask you this: the fucking Marine super soldier. If you play piano over me, I will fucking murder you. Okay. Don't you fucking do it. Get your goddamn paws off that fucking piano.
Tell me about the Marine super soldier, Dan.
It's not gonna work. Don't fucking do it.
Tell me about the Marine super soldier, Dan, please.
You know what it is? You're just not on my level.
I'm not.
That's it.
I'm struggling to hang on. I can't barely do
you
it.
are Wikipedia Andy, except when it suits you. Or no, then all of a sudden Wikipedia doesn't matter. Then no, get your fucking paws off the goddamn piano, you son of a bitch.
I need to finish watching Dr. K. I'm 4.5 hours
Why?
into my
Who
stream.
gives a shit
I'm
about
4.5
this
hours into my
fucking-
stream. I haven't done any immigration research
Who
yet.
cares?
I do. I need to have immigration knowledge fill my brain.
Oh my god. You know, it's just a sad state of it. You've fallen off. Like that is.
Listen,
All
I
right,
think we had
fine.
I just want to say, Dan, I thought the conversation today was really good right up until you were like,
okay.
actually, everything is hedonism.
I
was like,
never
Ah,
what you're
the
doing
ultimate
right now?
skeptic, Dan. Ah, the black hole of ultimate
I
skepticism.
wanna see-
Everything is everything else. True.
No. You know what it is?
Tomorrow, Dan comes on to argue for epistemic anti-realism. There's no such thing as truth or anything ever. Oh, wow, thank you.
I need my Redditors out there because this guy is gaslighting me. I said specifically that shit you don't want to do is not fucking hedonism. And this dumb bastard is trying to fucking slow roll me. You know what? You're a bad person. I'm gonna just say right now, you are a bad person. And bad things happen to bad people. I just want to let you know that that's true also. You know, it's nature. It's karma. Okay? Now that said, I'll let you get to your immigration research because I don't want these fucking conservatives trying to kill me because I kept you away from learning that, I don't know, immigration bad, except for the good ones. That's what they're going to say.
Okay, where were we on this?
Loss of status, economic hardship, loss of purpose, life events, low resource environment, lack of stable employment, social network. This is the actual start. Protestant work ethic, I guess, is associated with it. Self-reliance and independence, masculine culture. Oh, fuck me. You're telling me that on the flowchart of mental illness is masculine culture and societal expectations? Fuck me. Historical events, childhood adversity, economic challenges, suicide contagion in media. And then we get to the person. This is stuff that is completely outside of our control. Thoughts, no one cares about me or will help me. The system / others have betrayed me. Nothing will ever get better. I should be able to fix this. Other people don't understand me. I'm broken, I'm helpless, I'm weak, I'm a bad person. Okay? Now this is where we can say, okay, doesn't this mean that this person is mentally ill? Sadly, I don't know. Sadly, I think the reason that a lot of people believe this is because they're conditioned to believe this, because they've been taught this in some way. Now, oftentimes...
Maybe we would just disagree here. That I would think some of these schemas are... Maybe mental illness isn't a precise enough term for me to use. Or maybe he would agree that it is a type of mental illness. I'm not sure.
Sometimes they qualify as a mental illness, but it's really sad, but this is not a malfunction of the brain. This is programming. Is it mental illness because it impairs their function?
Oh, it's not a malfunction of the brain, it's programming. Yeah, I guess maybe we might end up agreeing conceptual and everything, and our disagreements are just definitional. So like, for instance, if there was a person that ran around calling everybody a racial slur to get what they wanted, but you find out that they grew up where everybody trained them in their household that you call people racial slurs to get what you want, and then they go out in the real world and do it, I would say this person has a problem. So there's maybe I wouldn't call it mental illness, maybe we would just call it maladaptive. And he would say this is a schema you've been trained to do, maybe.
Absolutely. But when you have a child who's raised in traumatic circumstances, childhood adversity, abusive parents, this is the way that they see the world, and they're not wrong. This is what happens when you get traumatized. You develop survival mechanisms which become maladaptive later. We have a whole guide coming out in maybe a month or two about this. Right? And so then there's emotions, and then we get to some of this stuff, thwarted belongingness, perceived burdensomeness, which is really scary, okay? So I want y'all to understand these two. We'll go into more detail in a second. So when we look at theories of suicidality, what we find is that there are a couple of really damning things that really lead towards suicidality. And mental illness is absolutely a huge risk factor, but what researchers...
Whoa. Wait, what did Quinn do to get... What did Quinn do to get 7-day banned? Holy shit, did I miss something? Dustin, you said it wasn't necessarily mental illness? Oh, sure, whatever.
Actually done is they've tunneled down and looked at the people, forget about the diagnosis for a second. What actually happens in this person's life? And what they discover is there are two things. One is perceived burdensomeness, and the second is thwarted belongingness. Now, what do these mean? This means that, first of all, I'm a burden to those around me, right? This is perceived burdensomeness. It's not clear how, I don't know how you objectively measure burden. But these people go through life, or at some point they start to believe that I'm more of a burden than a help.
I'm so curious. Would you consider Dr. K masculine? Or would you consider Dr. K feminine? Or would you say he's a high level of masculinity? I'm so curious what ordinary people, I say ordinary, what internet people, neutral, middle, both middle, he's a little femme. One thing that I keep getting more and more curious about is I wonder if Japanese media shaped how I view the masculine feminine dichotomy a bit. I would consider Dr. K to be a very masculine person. I think he's incredibly confident. I think he's very intelligent. I think that he holds his own in conversations really exceedingly well. He's accomplished quite a bit. Obviously, he's got a nice family, provides, and all of that shit. I would consider him to be an incredibly masculine figure. I think he's a high degree of feminine traits as well, but I would consider him to be a very masculine figure. I'm curious, in people's brains when they make these assessments,
is where they necessarily come from. Intelligence is a masculine trait, question mark. Being very intelligent? I feel like it is. I mean, it could be a feminine trait too. I guess it could be both.
I don't contribute anything.
Just because something is a masculine or a feminine trait doesn't mean the other side doesn't have it at all too.
I'm just a taker. And the other one that's really devastating, which I think we see a lot of now, this one I think is getting worse, is thwarted belongingness. This is where people try to belong. I come to a group of people and I say, hey, can I hang out with you? And everyone says, ew, no. And this is where you're like, hey, I'm a human being. I'm trying to connect with y'all. And people are like, thank you, but no thank you. And in a sense, this is reasonable, right? Because I'll hear this a lot, especially in terms of gender dynamics. And everyone's like, I'm not responsible for fixing this other person's problem. It is not my responsibility to be this person's friend. It is not my responsibility to include this person. It is their responsibility to fix themselves, find their own things. I'm not responsible for another human being. This is the value system.
Yeah, but at that point, why even
today.
call it a masculine trait? Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of like what I would consider an exclusively masculine trait. Or like if there's a trait that's masculine, but it would be good for men and women to have it. What's the point of even calling it a masculine trait? Dick size, big penis, racism, homosexuality, having a penis, your mom. Okay. Male to female cross-dressing.
The West, at least. And that's reasonable, right? Like, I'm not responsible for some random person on the street. But then we're still left with the problem of if you're not responsible and I'm not responsible and this person isn't responsible and this person isn't responsible, then who is responsible? So what I see is a group of people, and this is happening a lot with men, it's happening with women too. I see it more in minority women and frankly women who don't adhere or don't have the biology.
Please read my very well-sourced immigration post. It has lots of good articles and info. Google immigration effort post, Our Destiny, it comes up. Wow, thank you, Jacob. I'll copy paste the whole thing tomorrow. We don't even need to do any research on our own because you did it all for us. Thank you.
To adhere to standard beauty standards, some of the loneliest women. And what happens is like these people don't know how to connect, right? Oftentimes from a young age, they're bullied, technology enters the picture, we don't know how to, and like we don't have social spaces anymore. We're spending all of our time on Discord.
Not
and then
good.
like once you're
Because everything else is irrelevant. Rationally, they your ideology not limit and constrain every comment zone by for the past 10 years. Reality. You're and multiply the number of
29 years old and you've never been in a relationship and you don't quite know how to dress. When people look at you, what do they see? They see a creep. A creep is the most devastating label you can get. Because what does it mean to be a creep? Does it mean that you did something wrong? No. Does it mean that you're bad in some way? Like, did you actually do something? Are you a thief? No. Are you harmful? No.
Because in a way, I get what you mean, though. Like in the traditional sense, I'd agree intelligence, honor, confidence, etc. are masculine traits. But in the modern day, I just see it as pointless to even live on such. Maybe. Well, but I mean, obviously in the West, we hardcore feel drawing certain masculine or feminine traits. I guess I'm just trying to think of like when you watch like when I watch like old anime, or if I think of like old Japanese video games I played, it felt like there wasn't. Like the only difference between men and women basically just came down to appearance. Like that's what it feels like. Like in any JRPG you play, the women all have like the same fighting capabilities and everything as like the men do. It's not like there's like a difference in stats or like all women are only spellcasters or something. Men and women could both be intelligent. They could both be manipulative. Even in Gundam shows, there's like female pilots. Destiny, really? All healers in JRPGs were female. Is that necessarily true? Like, I guess you kind of see represented both sides. Like in Final Fantasy VII, Eris is like a healer person, but Tifa is like the fist fighter person. I feel like that's probably that might be like one of the most masculine types of fighting you can do is like with your hands versus like with a sword. Yeah, I don't know. In Final Fantasy X, was the witch lady what was her name? The lady with the big boobs. Was she a spellcaster? But Vivi was a spellcaster. I don't remember. Yuffie was also a fighter. Yeah, a ninja. Destiny, there's no female equivalent of Sephiroth. Are all the big bad guys in all the Final Fantasies male? Is Ultima in Final Fantasy Tactics a female or a male? I know she inhabits the one, your sister's body. Kefka is trans? Is that true? Maybe evilness is the only masculine trait. Well, what about Genova? Genova was, I think, feminine coded. Sephiroth always called her mother. How many girls that you met growing up were into philosophy, debating, or robotics? No one speaks objectively about intelligence most of the time. It's knowledge of things, often autistic and very male. I mean, maybe because I went to private school, and so my female friends went to private school, but they were all interested in, like, engineer. Like, I picked up Ayn Rand from my fucking female friend. Like, that's where I got that author from. So that whole objectivist libertarian shit, debating and stuff was also with a lot of the, because they were all like social justice warriors, and I was like very edgy. So a lot of my arguing and debating was with them too. Computer stuff in video games was definitely heavily masculine coded growing up. That's for sure. I don't know if that's as true anymore. In the more hardcore aspects, it is. But growing up, it was like even casual gaming was almost exclusively a masculine thing. Are you sending Nathan to private school? I don't know. I talked to them a little bit about it, and he is not excited about the idea. Westside is a really good public school. I don't know. I'll think about it more. He's still got a couple years, so. Isn't there a pretty huge sex difference between interest in things and interest in people? At early ages, there seems to be, yeah. I'm not saying there's no difference between men and women. I'm just trying to figure out why I feel like my view is so much different. And then when I think about all the Japanese media I consumed, I feel like masculine and feminine stuff bled way more into itself. Like, I'm trying to think that, because like I'm trying to think of, like, for instance, like tropes. So if we think of like damsel in distress tropes, for instance, so like if I think of Metal Gear Solid, if you have a damsel in distress, so like Meryl would be a damsel in distress, that's still like a strong female character that can also like kill people and do things on their own as well. And then you also have, in like Metal Gear Solid 2, the person that saves you if you're a damsel in distress is Olga in the cyborg suit. So you're being saved by a woman there. In Metal Gear Solid 3, the lead badass is literally a woman, the boss. Metal Gear Solid 4 is wacky. 5 doesn't count. In Final Fantasy VII, I'm thinking, you try to save Eris, but I guess she ultimately ends up saving you and the whole world. Tifa basically walks you through your mind palace. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like in a lot of Japanese media I consumed, it's all just kind of like, it's a lot more balanced. There are still like feminine and masculine roles. So like in Gundam Wing, all 5 Gundam pilots are boys, but there are also some Gundam pilots that are women. Not Gundam pilots, but pilots of other mobile suits. But then I think Wu Fei, I think he literally says to Noin at one point, he's like, "This is why you're weak. It's because you're a woman." Which retrospectively is funny because he's a 15-year-old kid saying this, but... Isn't Japanese culture super segregated in gender roles? I think culturally, I think it might be, yeah. But when it comes to entertainment, it seems different. And even for the modeling, like, don't Asian people... I have one model friend that talked about this like 15 years ago, so I don't know if that's actually true for everybody. But like, won't you find a lot more androgynous beauty in Japanese culture than you would in like Western American culture? I don't know if we ever held up androgyny as a beauty standard in the West, whereas that might be more common in Asian stuff.
I don't know how true this is. It'd be good if there was like an Asian person that you could talk to. But I think that primarily a reason for these young boys being very androgynous too, it's to appeal to the market that's going to be consuming them, young Japanese boys, right? And a lot of the tropes that you're talking about are also going to be to appeal specifically to that demographic as well. It's not 100% the reason why, but it's a huge reason why.
Wait, why would you
right?
make? Why would femme-coding boys make it more appealing to teenage boys?
That's what I don't know, but it seems to be even a thing. Even when you look at releases for Square Enix games like Nier, right? Nier Replicant, there was a dual release of Nier. There was a Western release where they made the protagonist like a big buff, disgusting, uggo-looking dad, right? That appealed to a lot of like Western young boys. And in Japan, it was this very effeminate, very androgynous-looking main character. Like there's 2 main characters for each release of the game. I do not know why it appeals that way. I'm not sure, and I wish I knew somebody that could appeal to that could explain the reason why a lot of these game devs make their protagonists look like very androgynous. But it's a thing. I just don't know why. But I don't know. It might pertain to that to some degree and in some way as well. But it's not just a thing in video games too. In a lot of manga and anime and media, like you said, like JoJo's, they went from being like these very Fist and North Stars like inspired characters that are like super fucking buff and masculine. And most JoJo's characters are now super like androgynous, femme-looking characters that are very, I don't know, effeminate. I'm not sure why. But that would be a really cool conversation to have with somebody who's familiar with the culture over there. I'm just not that person.
Well, also, you have to be careful too,
on.
because like the culture is also more than, my only consumption is culture that's been packaged and made Western accessible too. So like my commentary right now on like Japanese culture is literally restricted to video games and anime that have been dubbed and translated and shipped to the West. So maybe like film or whatever, everything looks a lot different, yeah.
That is true. I don't consume a lot of Japanese media outside of like that industry as well, like games and manga and whatever. But the fact that it's like been done over and over is still something that I'm super curious about. God, I hope there's someone in your audience that could come on and speak about why that is the way that it is, because that is super interesting in my opinion. Aside from that, oh fuck, I forgot what I was going to talk about. I'll come back another time because I got to go to the gym really bad. I'm late, but I'll come back and... What do you mean, don't do it? There's only one way I'm going to be big and strong.
Huh.
You're a creep. What does that mean? It means that I don't want to spend time with you, but I don't have a very clear reason. That's why we use the word creep, right? So if someone is like a rapist, that makes sense. They're a rapist. That's why I don't want to spend. If someone's a thief, we understand. If someone is a League of Legends player, we understand why no one wants to spend time with them. Okay? But creep is like a word that we apply to this, and like what a damning diagnosis, because what do you do about that? Like you don't have social skills, now you get ostracized, now how are you supposed to get them? And this is where we have another huge problem. So if we look at, show you another quick paper, I jumped ahead. There's another problem here. This is a paper called Masculinity and Help Seeking Among Men with Depression, a qualitative study. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so like the other problem that we have is that as men, we don't know how to ask for help. And that's because we're raised with these masculine norms of independence, okay? And as we get raised with these norms of independence, sorry for the wall comment. I'll take a dig at a couple other games before we're done, okay? So we as men are not taught how to ask for help. And so there's like data that shows that women are taught how to ask for help. We'll show that a little bit later, because there's a second point to it. So I think another huge problem that we have is if you're a man today, like you're sort of taught that you're supposed to be independent, right? And this is where a lot of people will say like, oh, but like men, you know, when we talk about these societal norms, there's like a trend to say like, no, like I'm not like that, right? So we say like, okay, men should be allowed to, like a man expressing your emotions is absolutely okay. Like men should be allowed to express their emotions. Really? Which ones? Men can cry. Oh, interesting. What if I have other emotions? What if I feel angry? Am I allowed to express that as a man? And this is where I think Destiny kind of reacts to this too. And it's a really common thing. So we as men are conditioned to express anger and feel anger. It's the only thing, okay? We kind of like, we talked about this on Diary of CEO a little bit, and I think Destiny reacted to it. But basically I was kind of pointing out that, you know, if you're getting bullied, what are you supposed to do as a dude? You're supposed to fight back, right? And like, what we're supposed to do is get pissed. And you guys can watch any movie that has a male protagonist. I will guarantee you, I guess I can't guarantee, 99% confidence, I don't even watch movies anymore, that at some point the man will get angry in a righteous and positive way. And this will be a turning point in the movie. Right? You can watch a movie like Taken, where
Japanese women find softer male protagonists more attractive. The female audience is often taken into consideration in Japan. Yeah, maybe, but I think it's also true in the West too. I don't know. Maybe it's a mistake to generalize. Because it's always, I think I said this on one of the Fresh and Fit shows. I thought I did, or maybe it was on a whatever podcast. Because people will say things, well, you know, in America or whatever, like women want guys with huge muscles, guys that are super masculine, guys that blah, 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 blah. But then when you look at the pop stars of like the 60s and 70s and 80s, this is like some of the most some of the most femme presenting stuff. Like if you look at like David Bowie, you look at like Michael Jackson. I don't know what's gonna come up if I go with this shit. And the way that these people present on stage is very like twinky, femboy, feminine coded stuff, femme coded stuff. So, but it happens in the West too, but not always. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably more complicated than just like countries or hemispheres.
Spoiler alert. It's about someone whose daughter gets abducted. And what
Even
does
Marilyn Manson or hair metal / glam rock bands. Sure.
the man do? The man does what he's supposed to do, which is get pissed. And everyone is like, this is what a man should be. I want a dad like Liam Neeson. You can look at anything. And then like, now we have this like very, very contrived vulnerability of like, oh yeah, like it's okay for a man to cry, but they're so manly when they cry. Like they have such big muscles when they cry. Right? They don't show like the snot and the vomit and the dejection and the self-hatred and the self-loathing. They don't show the crying for hours and hours and hours. It's like 5 minutes, and then there's a pat on the back, and then there's like positive anger, and then we're gonna go fix our lives. Let's go be men about it, and then we're gonna have big dicks at the end of all that. So what happens, and this is such a common experience that I see in relationships, is that women are conditioned that it's okay to cry. And by the way, women get fucked by not being able to express anger as well, okay? So it's not like, just because men have these challenges does not mean that women don't have challenges. And in fact, when it comes to anger, women especially are punished for it. So we're punished less as men. It's the only tool we're taught. But if you're a woman and you get angry, especially in some place like the workplace, you'll be judged so harshly. Okay? But this is what happens. We're only taught to express anger. And then what happens is we've started to demonize anger in men, right? It's testosterone. They're fundamentally violent. These creatures cannot be trusted. All men are bad. Men cannot be trusted. And what is it that triggers these? It's expressions of anger. So we're allowed to like sort of express our emotions, but they have to be the right emotions. And in this way, now we have entered the lot of women. Because for the last 200 years, this has been true of women. Women are allowed to only express a slice of emotions, and men are only allowed to express a slice of emotions. And so like this is the kind of thing where we have to...
I think this is like my biggest complaint always about gender roles is not like, I don't think gender roles are bad. I think the issue is that gender roles, rather than becoming... rather than being taken as guidance, they become heavily restrictive. I think that as guiding points, I think gender roles are really positive. It gives you things to strive for. It gives you things to aspire to. It gives you, things that make you feel good about yourself. Oh, it's masculine when I do this. Oh, it's feminine when I do this. But the problem is, I think when they become restrictive and people judge you for things that fall outside of the prescriptions of gender roles, I think that's when you run into a lot of bad, like objectively bad issues that need to be corrected for.
To be independent. We express anger. We get ostracized. There's a sense of thwarted belongingness. And then what we end up with is we get called creeps. And then the worst thing is that we don't know how to ask for help. We're not taught how to ask for help. In fact, we're taught the opposite. And so then what ends up happening is that we don't know where to go. But we certainly know that there's one group of people on the internet who understands our plight.
The red pillars.
Right? Because the rest of the internet says, oh yeah, you're a man, you're privileged, everything's Gucci for you. You don't understand how good you have it. Stupid me. I didn't understand how good I had it. Right? And sometimes that's true. Sometimes you do have deeply narcissistic people who have no idea how good they had it. Maybe I'm one of them. Who knows? And so the one refuge that they have is the alpha males, the red pillars, and the incels. And everyone's like, oh my God, this is toxic masculinity. These people have nowhere else to go. They tried to join you, and you kicked them out. So what do? Anytime you ostracize a group of people, they're going to form their own community. And so if you guys have a problem with toxic masculinity...
Gender roles necessarily create divisions in society. They can't be positive by design. Why? You're assuming that any division created in society is necessarily negative? I disagree. I think there are plenty of healthy divisions. For instance, like doctors are divided in terms of like who's allowed to stick their hands inside people's bodies, or police officers are divided in terms of being allotted like certain responsibilities and rights. Like I don't think all divisions are necessarily bad. Or socially, I think, I wouldn't agree with that.
Masculinity, like how about you be nicer to dudes so that you don't have to shut them all out and then they're going to congregate and then it'll get radicalized, because that's what happens when you shut people out. And then the other problem is these people don't know how to ask for help. And so instead, the other real challenge here, and I don't blame people for disliking them, because the way in which they approach other people is so fucking toxic. Right? They're like, oh, women are blah, 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 blah. Like, I deserve this and I'm entitled to this. And like, they exhibit behaviors and use dialogue that is so damn polemic, polarizing, antagonizing. And then once they piss us off, we're trying to be nice to them, and then they start opening up this...
Asana's doing a segment on old Destiny or Destiny versus old Destiny. Wait, what? No shot.
Except what you're slamming on there is oftentimes white supremacy or many other forms of
business.
It's
not a 9 to 5.
No shot.
Can of worms where there's like litany of like red pill, whatever the fuck, sexual marketplace value and other kinds of pseudoscience mating bullshit that these people have never read a scientific paper.
Do you think Dr. K has any issues with audience capture? This whole like angry about men being pushed out of space and forced into red pill gives me that vibe. Well, it's only audience capture if he's like saying things he wouldn't necessarily say otherwise. Like he's probably focused more on this, but I don't think that's necessarily audience capture. I consider audience capture is when you have to start compromising what you'd rather talk about or what your true feelings or principles are in order to appeal to an audience.
Right? Maybe they have. I don't know. Like they have all these like ideas, right? Like alpha and beta, which like.
How much, if any, do you think men's anguish towards women is caused by women's actions themselves as opposed to men's actions? Honestly, it's hard. I don't even know anymore what people are mad about. It's hard to figure out what people are mad about in terms of what's actually happening versus what people are telling them to be mad about. So like, I think a really good example of this is there is a whole bunch of men out there in the red pill space that are really mad about stuff like alimony, despite the fact that they are broke. Like, you have these guys that either don't work or they're working in a menial job and they're getting $24,000 a year and alimony is like on their mind for hating women. Bro, nobody's taking your money. You have nothing to take. Like, if you get broken up with, like, this girl's gonna pay you child support. Like, you are broke as fuck. Why do you care about alimony? Like, it's hard to tell what people actually care about versus what they're told to care about by other people. That's just a really hard thing in my mind to separate out. I'm not sure. What is he talking about here?
Like not forcibly deporting people from a country that they've existed in for multiple generations? You're talking about violating their fundamental rights as humans and their rights as Americans.
Trying to make it as easy as possible. You know, say, in 10
by
years...
escalating violence until they can't refuse.
What is this even...
It's not very peaceful, my dude.
Where are our Arab brothers?
I would say they tend to be violent. They support radical jihad Islamists. I would say that their choices on leadership has consistently been horrible. Their outlook on the war and October 7th is insane. Like, I would say in almost every sense, the average Palestinian, I know that people like to do this thing where like, oh no, it's just Hamas is bad. No, the average Palestinian is mind right now. At the very least, almost all of them in the Gaza Strip are, if for no other reason, because Hamas literally educates them with programs of like Mickey Mouse the Jew goes to like murder Goofy, the poor Hamas.
Oh God, it's all just like straight unfiltered Hasbara nonsense. Okay, I can't watch the rest of this.
What part of this is nonsense?
But you get the picture. Same confidence, by the way. Same level of confidence, same level of arrogance.
One thing that I think is incredibly telling, one thing that I think is very telling is when a person looks at a stream of mine from 8 years ago when I was dramatically less educated on the topic, and then I'm agreeing with them, and then you fast forward to now where I've learned way more about it, and I disagree with them. I'm like, oh, I like the older, uneducated person. Because that older Destiny, by the way, probably couldn't find Israel on a map. I don't know if he could have found Israel on a map. He probably would have thought the West Bank was the thing on the west and the Gaza Strip was the thing on the right. But that's the guy that you agree with. That's the guy who's giving you the really good opinions about this that you should be believing, not the new guy who fucking, I guess, reads Wikipedia all day. Also, I still don't understand how he's allowed to... Now, he can't even use the excuse that he's watching like an important debate of mine. He's just watching highlight clips of me from the past. This is allowed on Twitch? I thought you weren't allowed to broadcast banned streamers like this. Like, he's literally promoting my content.
Like, the original person was like, this is not correct. The original researcher who coined the terms. And then they say things that make us not want to help them. It's so hard. And we're not taught how to ask for help, right? Like, how do you ask for help? You can point out what your deficiency is. You can point out that you're striving for something, and then you can ask for help, right? So this is stuff that I literally teach my patients. Hey, I noticed that I'm not very good at making friends. I would love to be like a better human being and a member of a community and contribute to like the people around me. Can you please help me strengthen my relationships? That's the thing. Point out a flaw that you have. Pick a goal that you want to strive towards, and then ask for help. Hey, I noticed a deficiency. This is where I want to go. Can you help me? 1, 2, 3. Because the best way to ask for help. I don't know that scientifically. I haven't looked at like...
I believe it's always meant to only be live stuff, but they had some accidental stupid bans, but I hate switching. I thought Dylan Burns got banned for watching the same thing Hassan did. Didn't that happen? Wow, Illuminator, thanks for the 5 gifted subs.
Meta-analysis on different methods of help seeking. Right, but we're not taught this. So someone struggles like they don't know what to do. They get judged as a creep.
At Destiny, earlier you said that just go to therapy isn't always good because it makes the person feel like they have something wrong with them. Shouldn't it just be normalized to go to therapy even if things are mostly good? Sure, I guess, but like just go to therapy isn't going to necessarily fix your problems. Like, I think there's like a perspective shift that happens, or a paradigm shift that has to happen as well, that hopefully your therapist helps you with. But
they have fewer economic opportunities, and we're going to get... I have other ones. Hold on. I have more papers. I'm not done with the papers. Give me a second. Okay. I'm going to pause here.